Buddy. Well, it's been an evening this evening. We did have allegedly Dave on the Hangout, but he's having some internet problems, so we decided to come on and just go with the flow. But Santos wasn't feeling very well today, so he messaged me a couple of hours ago, which is very disappointing, but he's got a tooth infection, I think, so he didn't feel like coming on. But allegedly Dave said he would come on. So we've seen him on the Hangout, but he's got internet problems. Oh my goodness, my feed's going. I need you, Frankie, to tell me to turn it off. So we're going to continue this Hangout and hopefully Dave rejoins us. A whole technical night. I didn't even have anybody for the Hangout because I was hoping that Santos and Dave would talk to each other. So I've rallied round some members of Sun and Moon. So thank you everybody for jumping on and helping.
No problem.
From America, we've got Dave Marsh from the UK. From the UK, Series from Holland, Patricia UK, Judith from Israel, and me from the UK. And we're just hoping that Dave can, again. But it's raining here in the UK, so sometimes that affects things, doesn't it? Anyway, welcome everybody in the Hangout room. So what should we start off then? Because it's a bit frustrating when you're waiting, isn't it, for someone to come on and they come on and then they leave. So yeah, well, there's every Hangout has to have its technical problems. Just really annoying. It's happened all over this evening, but I suppose that's the way life goes, isn't it? So, how are you, Billy? It's Patricia, Judith, and Dave's just gone to get his dinner.
I'm doing very well.
So, sorry for summoning you very quick because you didn't even know you were coming on a Hangout, did you, Billy?
No, that's okay. Yeah, I've been with the grandchildren doing a little R&R with the family. My wife got called into work. My car had problems. The power window went down on the driver's side and it wouldn't go back up, so it cut our day trip short. So my wife decided to go to work today. And no, I was just scrambling around doing things around the house, getting ready for tomorrow and stuff. We're going to go boating tomorrow, hopefully, if the weather holds up. And then camping later on in the week. So, doing good.
Cool. What about you, Dee?
Sorry, well, I'm saying hello to everyone in chat. Well, sorry, what am I missing?
I was just saying, how are you today?
Oh, no, I'm good. Yeah, I've had a nap this afternoon, so I'm all raring to go.
Mention anything to do with what you sent me, or do you want to do that a different time?
No, well, yeah, I'm going to start sticking a link in the chat in a bit. It's just a link to a video I made for the mods, basically, to try and clear up some issues. I want to try something new with dealing with chats and stuff. So, like I say, we can give it a try. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But like I said, I'll put the link out there, mods, so please give it a watch when you can, and we'll see what happens. So, thank you. Cheers, Karen.
Thanks, Dee. Series? What have you been doing today?
Sorry, I missed the name there.
Series. What have you been doing today?
Animating. Working on the 3D animator and video converter.
Can you show us a little bit? While you're getting that ready, Patricia, hello. Judith, hello.
Hello.
Hi, Patricia.
Hello, everyone.
How are you?
I'm okay, thanks. How are you?
Good. Is that Judith has a new icon? Okay, I thought so.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom
Hello.
Aleichem.
Shalom.
Dave's back now. Hello, Dave.
Hello, everyone. How you all doing? You okay? I'm just in the middle of eating my tea at the moment, so you have to just bear with me for 5 minutes. Well, I think you
That's okay.
didn't, don't you? We call it tea.
Take your time.
You didn't know you were coming on a hangout, did you, Dave? So
No, but like I mentioned before we kicked off the hangout, this might interest you as well, Billy. I've been building some data up from Mooncalc and time and date in regards to the motions of the moon, a bit like my moon race video, but I'm building up with a lot more data. I started from December 2015, and I've basically gone right through all the meridian passings on the tropics and on the equator, right through. I think I'm up to July at the moment, 2016. So I've got about 6 months worth of data, and I've got a clear picture of the motions of the moon on the path when it speeds and when it slows down. And I've actually found something what I missed, and I understand why I missed it, because I always base my rate research just on one lunar month. So this is some quite interesting stuff what I've got to feed through, which I'm looking at a simulation of the lunar cycle on the heliocentric model. I don't think it fits in with that, but I'm not sure yet, because trying to find a working model, obviously based on NASA's numbers, is very, very difficult. And I've actually found a school project which is based on their numbers. So I'm looking at that, and obviously looking at the data what I've collated at present. So that's where I stand at the moment.
That's great. Beautiful. Can't wait to see it.
yes, I can't wait to see it too, Dave. So how long is that going to take then?
Well, I did 6 months in 3 hours last night. I have to have 3 windows open. I have to have a Windows Microsoft Word window open. Then I've got obviously the Mooncalc, and I've also got time and date open, because on time and date you can put a time to and a time from, and it'll tell you the actual time it takes. So it just speed up a little bit, but it's like, say, you jump in between windows. Yeah, like I say, I've got about 6 months with the data, but like I say, it's something very interesting to tell you in a bit. So
How much do you want to go through then, Dave?
well, I'll just talk about it. Like I say, all I can tell you is basically what the moon's doing. You know what I mean? Like I said, my moon race video explains what it's doing over a lunar month. But as you know, I always started on the Tropic of Cancer, then went to the equator, and then went to the Tropic of Capricorn. I never did it when I went from the Tropic of Capricorn back to the equator. So that's where it starts getting a bit interesting.
And what about the video you did the other day then, the one where you went, the Antarctica one? Do you think that was real, or do you think that was, it just seemed a bit strange? There's loads of pictures of cities and things in there.
Yeah, I think it's some kind of glitch, to be honest. A lot of people are saying it's somewhere in New Zealand. I don't know. I just saw it on the Impossible channel, and I've just basically mimicked what he were doing live. So who knows? You know what I mean? Because they're untruthful from the beginning. You never know when to believe them. If they are telling the truth, it's like crying wolf, isn't it?
And also, very quickly, I saw you put, your NASA ones out. I can't help doing my NASA ones either. I put 2 out in the last few days on my channel.
Well, as you know, I put out the when Peggy got hitched, where she basically tried to do some kind of somersault, and she failed miserably. What I said to a lot of the guys in the TET on the TET channel, or in the group, I said I'm expecting a damage control video to follow. And what happens a week later? They send a video out, pre-recorded, where she's talking about something, then goes completely off the subject and just does a random somersault. Perfect. And I expected that, and that's why I posted a video afterwards saying damage control video, because we'd already had damage control video number 1 when they did the celebration on the 4th of July, when they was doing that time lapse with I can't remember the guy's name. Is it Mike Fisher? The other astronaut was up there. There was all in the United States flights where they're doing like time lapses on the ISS, which look very fake as well.
Yes, well, I've made my own. I've put 2 of my own out this week. Anyway, Dave is here. Dave.
Oh, still muted.
Sorry, muted. I keep doing that. Hi there, everyone. Sorry,
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry about that. I had to change locations. I don't think I was getting the bandwidth.
Thank you very much for joining us, because I did explain to the chat room that Santos wasn't feeling very well, so he has toothache. Anyway, you told me what to tell him, and I did.
Oh, okay. let's see if he does it.
And if it works.
Do you want to explain?
Mm.
Santos has a tooth infection, and what did you tell me to tell him, Dave?
To take a big mouthful of wee and then swish it around, and literally the pain should go in about 10 minutes.
Okay, everybody, so if anybody has toothache, that's what you need to do.
Simple as that.
Just to explain, because obviously the lineup changed, because I really did want you and Santos to talk, so I didn't actually ask anybody on the Hangout except me, Series, and Dee. So at very short notice, Billy from the USA has joined us. He's the one with the green T-shirt.
Yep. Hi there.
Hello.
Who's one of the speakers at the UK conference next year. So do you know Dave? Dave and Dave, do you know each other? You do, don't
Yes,
you?
I've met.
Me and Dave, yeah.
Yeah, we've met each other at the Bedford Level Experiment last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're very well acquainted.
Cool. And obviously Dave and Dave are from the UK. We've got Dee, who is Master Wrench. There he is, waving away. Series was showing a little bit of work there. Series from Holland, my group partner. And we've got Patricia, and he's from Holland. And we've got Patricia from the UK, and we've got Judith from Israel. Dave.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Dave.
Hello.
Good evening.
Cool.
So yes, the lineup changed a little bit there, Dave, with Santos, but we've sent a remedy out to him, so we have to rearrange that one. But I hope you don't mind me saying, you also know Santos, don't you?
Yeah, I actually met him at I think the Truth Juice gathering, 2013, and then it turned out that he was actually staying where I was staying. So you know, after the gathering, you know, we spent a couple of days together, you know, just hanging out and chatting.
Yeah, cool.
Some of your work's quite similar, though, isn't it? The numbers, the letters, the alphabet, you know, the languages. He's very into that. He's very into your own rights, the death certificate, not the birth certificate. He's into living a life kind of like you're trying to live, getting out of society, basically.
Yeah, yeah, he talks about the free man stuff, and you know, language thing is a new one on me, actually. So it's a new bit of research from, you know, for me. But and he's been doing it for a while, so I'm sure there'll be some overlap there. But yeah, we've been talking about similar topics.
So yeah, imagine both of you together in one place. Well, hey,
It nearly happened.
yeah, I don't know if he goes abroad. I don't think he likes traveling anymore. He said it on a Hangout. I think it's because, you know, it's a bit like you. You've got your life where you sort of want it, with the sort of opting out of society and living it the way you want. Then if he travels everywhere, he's got to then go back into society and then follow and be in all everybody else's ways. And I think he likes where he lives and he's very happy there.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But you know, I've got family that's abroad, and you know, I'm often called abroad. So you know, using a passport, I hate the idea of doing that. But you know, I think when I was in the UCT, the Universal Community Trust, we were actually working on a passport, but that didn't actually materialize. But so you know, you have to do what you can do. I mean, it's almost impossible to completely opt out of the system because it's an all-pervasive system. So, you know, you just have to do what you can do.
Yeah, it is actually impossible when you're living in a system to not go through the system sometimes.
In a way,
You can't.
smart or wise to push yourself through a kind of self-suicide. You know, some people just get crazy of all the attacks or whatever, and of all the stress, so they conform to it, and yeah, others just stay strong in who they are. And I guess that's the most focal point we need to actually be who we are, no matter how caught you are within the system.
Yeah.
Just do your best of what you can do, and yeah, nobody would expect more from you than your best, you know.
Yeah. Well, we're in a system that's basically closing in around us. You know, it's you know, we're withdrawing their currency from us. They're you know, they're putting up bills and charges and fines and whatever, especially in this country, and they're just waiting for us to crack. So so yeah, it's the system's closing in around us. So it's getting more and more difficult, even staying in the system. You know, let alone trying to get out of it.
Uglier every day, doesn't it?
Say again?
Gets uglier every day when you know what you know.
Yes, it does. And you know, where before the internet was really good at supplying us with information about what's going on. Now it's doing too good a job, so that we still don't see what's really going on because there's too much of it. You know, I've been looking at you know, police brutality and murder and whatever else that's going on in America, and I'm just being assailed by it. There's so many of them. There's so many cases of it. There's so many instances of brutality and murder and what have you, that, you know, most of us don't get to see it because there's too many.
Yeah.
Sometimes knowing more doesn't make it easier, though, does it? It sort of makes it harder. If everybody was like you or had woken up and understood what this was, a spiritual realm we're in and all that, it's different. But wake up in stages, I don't know, but it's just, you know, I think sort of the harder it is. It isn't inside yourself, it's just out there, I mean, outside.
Yeah, but you know what, the opposition to this is actually very simple, but very difficult to actually maintain or you know, organize, because it means getting a lot of people just to simply not comply, because consent is the key to all of this. You know, it's all based around consent. They trick us into giving them their consent, and once they do, off they go. But you know, if as soon as you get enough people to not consent to the things they do in their system, then the whole thing falls apart. You know, but that's the rub. That's getting people just to not consent, because it's things like not going to work. Well, there's a great many people who would stand up and say, well, I'm not going to work, you know, just to prove a point. But there's millions and maybe billions more who will say, sod that, I need to eat, I need to buy stuff, you know. So then the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, because you explained. So have we got Rory with us to now? Is that Rory with the pink background?
That is Brendan with us, I believe. How's it going, Brendan?
Hello, Brendan. New to our Hangouts. Anyway, Dave, Brendan, Dave. He's muted at the moment.
Hi, Brendan.
There you
But
go.
I just,
Hello, everyone. Good to meet you all.
All right.
how are you,
Hello.
Rory?
Yeah, I'm very well.
did you-
Yeah, call me Brendan. That's fine.
Great.
Yeah, good to be here. A good panel.
Thank you. I was just going to say this bit about even when, like, say, a policeman stops you, the word "I understand." If you say "I understand," you're saying something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're standing under their authority. You're giving them authority over you.
Yeah.
Instead of taking authority back, or actually your responsibility back.
But if you don't know, and the guy and the police officer says, "Do you understand?" you're going to say, well, you could say no, but you're going to say yes, I understand, and then okay, you can arrest me.
Yeah, but it goes much deeper than that, because you know, there's an even easier way that they get their authority over you. If you go to court, for instance, the first thing they say is all rise, and everybody just blindly stands up. Well, right there, you're saying, you know, that you're acknowledging the authority of the court by standing up.
Well, I suppose it gets even easier than that to a point, because as soon as you give them your name and title and address, they've got you, really, haven't they? So.
Well, that's it as well. It's you're by giving the name, address, and date of birth, you're identifying with the corporate fiction that they've created. They created when you were, when you were first born. Yeah, so you're saying I'm that fiction thing, and now they can grab hold of you.
Yeah.
And even probably them wearing wigs means something as well, doesn't it? They've got wigs on.
I don't know if it means something in relation to us as such, but it's the whole thing is theatre.
It's fancy dress, isn't it?
Yeah, it's theatre, so that we believe that it has some kind of power or authority. You know, it's all based on their church, because the court is laid out as a church, basically. So it's all ecclesiastical in nature. But all that stuff is there just to intimidate you more than anything. It's all designed to intimidate you, to make you feel small. They're up there looking down on you, and it's there to make you. And it works, actually. It does actually work on most people. That you walk in there and you immediately feel intimidated and fearful and stuff like that, unless you know what's actually going on.
Yeah, and I mean, after Flat Earth, I think it really is. This is what people need to learn, because this is what is practical in real life. This is what can make a change. People learning this truth and the difference between lawful and legal. And
yeah, well, the order of events is that the Freeman stuff happened. In 2009, 2000 up to about 2012, 13, something like that. That's it, when it had its heyday. That's not to say that there aren't people still sort of fighting the good fight, but that's when most people actually sort of gravitated to it and were furiously learning. But what I've learned from the Freeman movement is that what you're doing as a free man, what you're doing is absolutely completely correct. You're understanding what's going on. You're saying the right things. You're presenting the right documents. You're standing in honor, but you're dealing with criminals who will not abide by their rules. The only reason they're making a show that they're doing that is so that the sleeping muggles believe that the whole thing is legitimate. Yeah, and if they can do what they do in private, away from prying eyes, yeah, they'll just steamroller over you. Yeah, but if you if you sort of got a lot of attention focused on what you were doing, then they'll make a big show of trying to make it look legitimate. Just as an example, I was actually fighting or challenging a utility bill, and as soon as you turn up for one of those utility bill hearings and whatever, I can't remember what they're called now, but they summons you, and you know, they don't expect you to turn up. So I turned up, and what they did was, oh, okay, somebody's turned up. Oh, we can't deal with it today. We've got a full docket, so we're going to have to adjourn it, and you know, we'll do something special for you. You know, we'll have a court case for you. So you know, you turn up there, and they'll immediately adjourn it. So they said to me, okay, you can go. I was like, okay. So I just sat there. I sat there in the back of the court, where it's empty court with just a representative of the, I think it was the representative of the utility company, and the judge, and somebody else, I can't remember, the clerk of the court, and just me. So they were expecting me to get up and leave, but I sat there. And they, for about 30 seconds, I was just looking at each other, thinking, oh, okay, well, I guess we're going to have to do this then. And I basically sat there and forced them to make a show of actually going through case by case, because if I wasn't there, they would just rubber stamp each one en masse, and then send out letters to everybody. But with somebody there in the courtroom, they had to pretend that they were actually doing something.
Yo. Echt zo verzaad, joh.
Brendan, you're into this as well, aren't you? You're into all this.
Yeah, I was basically, I forced myself into it. David was right. It was about 2009 when the Free Man was really sort of going big time on YouTube, and I'd had a bank loan for about £10,000, which I was paying back. Now, obviously, life circumstances changed, and I was out of work, and I was struggling. So I made contact with them, and I explained my position, but they was very reluctant to give any leeway with it. So I struggled on for a bit longer, and it basically got to a point where I could no longer keep paying back the payments. And for some reason, I was on YouTube and something popped up about common law. So I just quickly had a look at it, and funny enough, it took me pretty much straight on to Get Out of Debt Free with Ceylon and Mark and all that gang. And I started realizing that I didn't understand what the loan was and what money was. And I just realized how ignorant I was. You know, we all go to work and we all play in the system, and we don't really think about it. Obviously, we just go along with the flow. Anyway, so after a lot of studying, and it was studying because you had to learn legalese, and you had to learn the straw man, the birth certificate, everything that went in it. It's just a minefield at first. When you first dive into it, you think, how can I take this all in? Then you've got Blacklaw's dictionary. And anyway, after probably about a year, I sort of got a pretty good understanding of what was going on. And by this time, the banks had already decided to send debting companies after me. So I was getting loads and loads of letters through the door. But luckily enough, you know, letters are just bits of paper and you can deal with them. They're quite irrelevant. But what this come back to was basically when I made, I signed a bit of paper called the agreement. Now, when we do things with banks, you always have to sign for things, your signature. Now, when I did the signature on the agreement, it is then classed as a legal document, and not just a legal document. It's a vessel. It's a financial vessel which can be used to make money, basically. So when you get a loan, you sign an agreement. That agreement then, after a little while, gets put into, let's just say, for example, a pot. You get investors come along and they will invest in that pot. They'll have a look, see what they got. They will buy that debt. Now, the thing is, once they've done that, your debt's paid off. But the banks will then continue to demand money from you. So basically, try and cut it short, the agreement was the most important part, because that agreement being a legal document, if I'm to pay that loan off, I expect that document to be returned to me, because in that document I've given them power of attorney, which you don't read the small print, nobody reads the small print, but it's in there. Even it's so sly, it's indirectly in there, and you're agreeing to give all your powers so they can use your signature to do more financial dealings. And people don't obviously realize this. So I started writing letters to the bank, and I said to him, look, I'll come to a deal with you. And I sort of ranted off a load of their contract law stuff. And the guy who was dealing with me got a bit arrogant. And in the letter he sent to me, he said, oh, we don't have your agreement anymore. So the best thing that ever happened, he'd actually given me in black and white that he no longer possesses my legal document. And I thought, brilliant. So I wrote back and said, thank you very much, blah, blah, for your information. I'm now taking this to a small claims court, because you've actually sold on blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I didn't hear anything for about a couple of months. And then I got 2 letters come through the post. One was for a new bank account with my bank, and it was 0000. They'd sent me a new bank card. And I thought to myself, what the hell's going on? I phoned them up and they said, no, according to our details, your account is cleared. So I thought, I know, I sussed exactly what they did. They've sent me a card, a new bank account. So as soon as I used it, I was then recontracted to them. So obviously I weren't going to use it anyway, but basically they wrote my debt off just to shut me up. So yeah, for me, that was the start of my journey with common law and everything that goes with it. And it is a minefield.
Yeah, I had a similar one, actually. I was actually in America at the time. I was living in America at the time. And this was, I think, 2008. So I started, the first thing that I came across that made me absolutely realize the fraud of it was that on American bank checks, the checks you sign, nobody uses checks anymore, but the checks you used to sign, if you took a magnifying glass and looked at the line that you sign on, it actually says that line isn't just a line, a printed line. It's actually words, just in micro print. In fact, there's 2 letters after the signing line. There's MP, that stands for microprint. So if you got a magnifying glass and look at that line that you sign on, it says authorized representative.
Wow.
Literally,
wow.
As soon as I found that out, I got a magnifying glass and looked, and there it was. It just said authorized representative. So I was signing as a representative of that that fake entity, the straw man entity, and then I realized the whole thing was real. So I went to challenge my credit card bill, which was $9,000. So essentially, I just wrote them one letter, and it was a letter saying that, you know, according to the research I've done on the Federal Reserve, you know, you didn't actually. Okay, let's step back a second. It was I was saying that I discovered a billing error on their you know, on their statements. Now, when you sort of raise a billing error in America, this is there's two things they can do. They can either write back to you and explain to you in detail why it's not an error, or they have to do this thorough investigation and correct the error. So because, you know, I knew how it worked, there's no way they could do either of those. They couldn't explain that every time I used my credit card, right, they were supposed to actually put that credit on the statement. Yeah, so when you use your credit card, when you use a credit card, you are crediting the bank.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So you're by you know, signing and doing and making a purchase, you are crediting that amount to the bank. The bank is giving that credit onto the merchant, and that's it. Transaction's over with.
Yeah.
But then they bill you for it and charge you interest on it. But you know, it's all done. It's all transaction.
There's a similar thing you can do with the banks over here is if you get charged for like going over your limit, like you get a charge for it. Now they're very quick to sort of be on top of you to get that money back. Now, if you say to them, hold on a minute, that's fine. I don't mind paying a charge, but can you break that down for me into a VAT receipt? Because I need to claim that money back, or, you know, put down as part of a business or whatever. And straight away they will just write off because it's too much money. It costs them too much time to break down every you know, your bill, because with all bills, same as council tax, it's the same with everything. You get them to break it down and explain what you're paying for. It doesn't make sense, and they don't want you to see that, so they will avoid it as much as possible. So
but when I was doing it, I was actually still paying my credit card at the time. I just all I did was just send them a letter. You know, I was up to date with paying it and everything. I just sent them this letter, and the next thing I got was a letter from a collections agency. I was like, what? Hang on. There's some, you know, I've won here, you know. So I just sent the collections agency a letter, and they disappeared. Then another collections agency appeared, and I sent them the same letter. They disappeared, and that was it. All over with. Never heard for anything about it ever again.
Yeah, the good thing with the debt agencies, especially over here, is once they realise that, because they hate all this common law and people that have done their research, because they know they will just give them. It's just, you're just a pain in the backside for them, and they got so many people that don't understand. They just get the money out of them, so you're not worth bothering with. And if everyone done it, then they would have nothing. They could not exist. And what you said earlier, Dave, about taking back your power, because everyone freely gives it to them.
Well, this is the thing, you know, especially with debt collectors, they've got no power until you give it to them. Yeah, they can't do anything until you give them the power to do it. So this is for anybody who hasn't come across this before. If a debt collector or bailiff approaches you and says, you know, say you owe them £1,000 or something, and they'll say something like, "Oh, give us £1 a week, you know, or give us £1 a month," yeah, and you think, "Oh, well, that's reasonable. I'll do that." As soon as you start paying them £1 a month, then you've admitted that you owe them something, and now they've got the power to come after you for the rest, and they do.
Yeah, you recontract with them.
Yeah, well, you contract with them because you don't have a contract with them in the first place. That's the point. Yeah, it's a debt collections agency. It's just like some bloke in the street coming up to you and saying, well, I hear you owe Tesco's 100 quid. Give it to me. It's like, well, okay, who are you? You know?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, and yet people do. And again, I understand, because it's a fear-based, you know, they work on your fears, and everyone's programmed to fear. It's like with the TV license, when they send you a red letter because it's a red letter, you know, my God, really? I'm scared because you changed the colour of the paper. But people's psyche is so programmed, they see red and they panic.
That just reminded me, because there was a period when having a go at TV licenses was the in thing. It was like everybody started researching TV license, and it was like we found out things like they've only got like 3, I can't remember the actual number, 3 actual detector vans.
I think Dave, I think it actually come down like they had 1 in the whole country.
Yeah, okay, 1, but they actually had a couple of mock-up vans that are mocked up with all these like lights and TV screens and stuff that didn't do anything. It was just like all for show, and it turned out that they've never prosecuted anybody. There's nothing they can do. It's just some a corporation that's like frightening people into paying them. And I had a TV license guy come round. I had a new girlfriend at the time, and she was just come round, and there was a knock at the door, and it was a TV license bloke. And this girlfriend, she got really scared. She was going, okay, you know, there's a TV going on in the corner there. This was back when I had a bloody TV. But anyway, they knocked on the door, and I said, he said, can I come in and see you've got a TV? I said, no. I said, do we have a contract between us? And he said, well, no. I said, what part of fuck off don't you understand? And I shut the door. And my girlfriend was like, what? Why did you? She was like, she couldn't leave. And that was it. I mean, they've got no power whatsoever. They can frighten you, but you know, if you give in to the fear, then they've got you.
Well, yes, like with the debt collectors, the best thing is if they come knocking at your door, just go, oh, wow, thanks, man. Cheers, you paid off my debts. Now, get off my property before I start charging you for my time.
Yeah.
It sounds easy.
Hang a particular plate on my door for when any company actually rings my doorbell, they're going to own me.
Yeah, the fee schedule is kind of a deterrent, but again, we're dealing with criminals. It's like saying I'm charging the mafia 50 quid. You know, you're not likely to get that 50 quid. But when you're dealing with some ignorant mafia muscle, you know, hired muscle, yeah, and he looks at the notice that says, if you do this and you owe me whatever, he's like, oh, should I take the chance? Maybe not, you know?
Yeah.
You're reversing the role. You're taking, that's what you're doing. You're taking the power back and using their psychology on them.
You know why it actually works this way? Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we can't get rid of our freedom, either our responsibility. We can try to give it away. They can manipulate us in giving it away, but see how much power they actually need to convince us only to give our power away. Ultimately, we have only one choice, and that's either take responsibility or just endure the horror you do yourself. You do to yourself by giving away to the mafia.
Yeah, but they've sort of woven this into the fabric of society, you know. So, you know, as you're 15, 16 years old, you automatically think you have to go out and get a driving license so you can drive. You know, you automatically think that. Nobody tells you. You know, if you sat and actually started asking or started researching whether you should get a driving license, you'd end up realizing that no, I don't need one. You know,
it has to start with our own children in that sense.
Well, yeah, it has to start as well. It's too late for that, really, because it has to start with us, so we can teach the children to actually, you know, to actually look before leaping. You know, every time you sign something, you've entered into a contract. Your signature is the most valuable thing on earth. Yeah. There's a video I did talking about that as well. It's you know, if you go into a bank and get a loan, the only thing they take from you for that loan is your signature. Yeah, for any amount you can think of, all they'll take from you is your signature, and that signature represents your promise to pay, which is ultimately your promise to work, use your energy, your unlimited energy, in you know, constructing this system for them, and that's the real money. That your energy is the real money, and you give that away every time you sign something.
Money only is sold labor.
Yeah, slave tokens. That's all it is. You know, you don't get the elite using money. You think when the Queen goes down to Chippy, she's going to be paying out for the you know, for her chips? I don't think so. She'll walk in there, she gets it all free. Yeah, they don't use money.
So they're only using the system anyway for what, like what you're trying to do, but they're getting, oh my goodness.
Well, the system was designed for them, wasn't designed for us. Yeah, it's, you know, that's why you know, you see stories in the news about you know, millionaires and multi-millionaires just doing whatever they want and getting away with it because, well, that the system was there was designed for them. You know, the royalty, you know, what was it, Prince Andrew and all that, the whole paedophile thing, that was in the news and disappeared, didn't it? You know, he didn't go to jail, did he? You know, and when you think about it, you know, the courts, the police, the government, all answer to the Queen and her family. So you know, you don't expect them to be sort of victims of it because it's theirs.
Same here, no. But then the Queen or the King in this case, no.
Say that again.
Yeah, same here in Holland.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of they're presenting it like the House of the King is a stage, but in the meanwhile they just own a shelf of for more than 50%. All kinds of business. Yeah, it's if you see their true interwoven relation with the whole corporation part. Yeah, you might wonder why they get Social Security from the state.
Well, you know, they've learned over the years that you know, if the elite show overt wealth and overt sort of power, then they lay themselves open to be you know, to be targets of a rebellion. Yeah, which is why, you know, our royalty kind of position themselves as you know, this antiquated figurehead type role that have no real power and no real you know, no real significance, but yet they run everything, you know, behind the scenes. They're not you know, not just a figurehead. They're, you know, they're not at the very top, but they're pretty damn close to the top. And manipulating things all around the world.
Yeah, I guess every country has their own head.
That's the same family.
Yeah.
There's only one royal family because they only marry within their own bloodline, and they use their lesser bloodlines to manage their colonies all around the world. So it's one family that's doing this.
They're just the farm holders.
Yeah.
And as soon as we are realizing we are actually the cattle.
Well, most people aren't going to realize it, are they?
And I hate to draw parallels with the Matrix, but it is so spot on that you're the energy. That's all they're doing. They're just draining your energy for their for their life, or whatever you want to call it.
On many different levels.
Yeah, so many levels.
The because I was in technology, I know that every single job that you can imagine that can be done in this world could have been automated 60 or 70 years ago. We're all doing make work, and the clue is in the words. Occupation, busyness. That's all it is. It's an occupation to keep you occupied, busyness to keep you busy. That's what it is.
Absolutely, and that's what consumerism
And
is.
Controlled, and you just don't realise it. You just don't realise that's what it's all about, just to control you.
They give people, it's for people's self-satisfaction. They think they're satisfied because once they've earned a little bit of money after giving all their taxes away, all their hard-earned money in taxes away, they got this little bit of money left, and they can treat themselves to something, and it makes them feel good, and it's just so poisonous. It's so horrible to see. I see people that work their heart out, and at the end of the day, they're just getting battered by the system, and it breaks my heart to see it.
Well, if you can actually follow the progression of this. You had overt slavery in obviously the South American South, but when the slaves were apparently freed, then you had something called sharecropping. And what sharecropping was, now you had all these free slaves. The slave owners, the former slave owners, said, okay, now that you're free, let's work together. I'm going to advance you, some seed, some tools. I'm going to give you this, that, and the other. Okay, you do the work. You grow the plants. You harvest them and everything, and we'll sell the profit and split the money. And then all you have to do is pay me back for what I've advanced you. And it always seemed that there wasn't enough money to pay back the owner. So the former slave ended up in debt, and then had to pay it off the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and so on and so on. So nothing actually changed, just the mental concept of what was going on. And that system of sharecropping has been basically spread out all over the world, and we're all doing the same thing. Most of something like 98% of everything you earn is taken away from you in taxes and fines and all sorts of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've, especially in the last, I would say, 20 years, it's all been with the statutes and acts, especially with privatizing the police force and the courts and everything. If you accidentally make a mistake, you get fined. Now, I nearly did it. I was up in London last weekend, and I was coming up around Marble Arch, and I did a wrong turn, and I nearly went up this road which was for buses and taxis only, and I just stopped before I hit where the cameras was. Now, if I hadn't have spotted it and had accidentally just gone into that zone, I am then penalty fixed. and they will try and get like £80, and if I don't pay it in a couple of weeks, they double it. And you know, is what a society we've allowed to happen.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a natural progression as well, because once you've got you know, a group of parasites who are milking this system, yeah, that group of parasites will exponentially grow. So the money that they need to drag in has to exponentially grow as well. So you always get this oppressive system that you know, just spirals out of control.
It's almost another form of quantitative easing.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I went to Matlock a few weeks back. It was quite nice. We went with Susie's mother and her brother, and the amount of police there policing the park bikes is unbelievable. They're just there to fine all the bikes what are there longer than they should do, because you had this time limit where they had to park the bike, and then they can't return within a certain time. So you just got 4 or 5 police walking up and down Matlock Bath, fining all these bikers, because there's hundreds and hundreds of them all parked up, and they just spend all day doing that. That's their job. Yeah, you go to Nottingham where crime's high, you don't see any police at all. You know what I mean? It's just all to get the money out of the system and feed it to them, kind of thing.
Yeah, the easy way, the coward way.
Yeah, or you know, it's that theory of gradualism that you know, we started off with this friendly Bobby on the streets, you know, Dixon of Dock Green, you know, evening all, that sort of guy. And over the years, very, very slowly, they've morphed him into, you know, this black uniform stormtrooper.
RoboCop.
Yeah, yeah, just out there to gather revenue. That's it. You know, he's not there to solve crimes or prevent crime or prevent anything. He's there to profit from crime. Yeah. Either profit from you doing it or profit from them doing it. Yeah. You know, so we should have seen it coming, but you know, because again, we've had to agree with it. And I did a blog post about this, and I mentioned it last time actually. You know, I think it was. Do you remember me talking about Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and the manufacture of consent? Anybody remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Right. Well, you know, we watch all these films and stuff, and we say, oh yeah, it was a great film. That was a great film. And hidden in that film is a question. You know, like RoboCop, for instance. You know, that hidden question is, do you agree with this sort of policing? You know, and we just say, leave the film theater and go, yeah, that was a great film. I enjoyed that. Rather than, I do not like the way we're going with this. You know, I'm going to complain. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost a softening up of the psyche as well, of an acceptance of this is what's going to be coming.
Yeah, but it's both at the same time. It's like, you know, if they'll put something out in a film, and if it's too much, people will complain. People will say, no, this is disgusting. Yeah. But here's one way of seeing how it's actually changed. If you go back and look at a horror film from the 1970s, yeah, look at a horror film from the 1970s, like The Exorcist, for instance. Yeah. You'll watch it and you'll think, well, that's a bit tame. I can't believe people were frightened by this, you know?
Yeah.
And the point is that back in the 70s, people were terrified by
Absolutely. In fact, Dave, I remember my mum telling me about when she actually went to see it with my dad, and there were people passing out in the audience, and I don't know if that was probably a mass hysteria, you know, a psychological thing that was going on possibly, but you're right. It was at the time. It was like, oh my God.
Yes,
How
people
did
having
they?
nightmares for ages after it.
Everyone's house was possessed, and people were getting, taking things home with them, and yeah, it was crazy.
But the point that you can watch it now and think it's sort of fairly tame and silly, yeah, doesn't mean that there was anything wrong with the film. It means that you have changed. You have got to a point where you accept that level of horror as tame now, and it's progressed so that you need a much greater level of horror before it affects you. Yeah, this is the psychological programming they've been putting us under for decades.
Interestingly, in regards to The Exorcist, when I used to live in Buxton, we used to live at my uncle's hotel, so I used to spend a lot of time with my cousin. And The Exorcist, I think it was banned in 1984. They banned a lot of films in 1984, the British Film Council, if I remember rightly. And it was a film I always wanted to see from even from a young age, like, because I've always been into the horror films, like when I was growing up. And me and my cousin, we used to rent films from Radio Rentals, if you can remember the place. And when we went to rent a film out, we noticed they had The Exorcist. He was like getting really excited. Oh, they got The Exorcist! They got The Exorcist! I can't believe it! Can't believe it! So me and my cousin, like, we got his dad to rent the film out for us. We rushed home, put it on. We watched it. We thought, is that it? Is that it? Nothing happened. So that was an interesting story. Like I say, because they did ban quite a lot of films. I think I Spit on Your Grave, The Evil Dead, Driller Killer, and all them other kind of old films were all banned. And when you watch them these days, you're like, is that it? So
yeah, I remember watching some of them on the old Betamax videos.
But you just said something interesting there, Dave. That what by banning them, yeah, what did it make you want to do?
Watch them even more.
Absolutely. This is how they create like a fascination with something. Yeah, they will make it a taboo, and then make it available, to you, usually under the counter. Yeah, they've done that with sex. They make it sex a taboo, and yet it's freely available if you want it. Yeah. So yeah, this is how they manipulate us. They know how to push our buttons. They know exactly what to do. They've been studying us for generations. Yeah. And if you look at some of the experiments that were done, through the 50s and 60s in America, you can see the results of those experiments being played out right now, all around you.
Yeah. Exactly. You only need to see these experiments and you realize it's all around you.
Yeah. I was looking at there's a guy called John Calhoun who did an experiment with rats, where at first he made a rat utopia, so he built this large area, and made food available, made all the places for them to play and places for them to do things, made it all a perfect utopia for these rats, and their population increased rapidly, and then suddenly plateaued, and then did a nosedive until all of them died. And they worked out, they actually ended up sort of doing variations of it, and somebody else, I can't remember the guy's name, took this research and ran with it, where they essentially put thousands of rats in a contained area and limited the amount of resources, and then watched them all kill each other until there was none left. And that's the template for the inner cities, all the ghettos and what have you around the world. That's the template. They cram everybody together, reduce the amount of resources are available, and just to hurry the process along, they put lots of drink alcohol, you know, lots of off licenses and things, and make drugs freely available. And especially in America, they actually dump guns into that area as well. People have there's been reports of you know, a car dropping off a whole bag full of guns in this neighborhood, just to hurry along the process. They've been experimenting on us, and they're now implementing all their data that they've collected, you know, on us all the time.
Especially the suburbs.
Yep. You know, it's. I don't want to. Yeah, I know this is getting really sort of a little depressing, really, because you know. But the good news is that you know, now that we're coming to the end of this, because you know we definitely are coming to the end of this. You know, more and more people are waking up to it, and because I just saw a news story. I think it was in Germany, because they've got the G10, or I can't remember what it is, but
The summit.
You know, the summit, yeah.
Yeah.
Something like a crowd of 100,000 people came out to protest the New World Order.
That's
Well,
right, and you did not see that on any, there was no coverage of that whatsoever.
Right. Well, you know what? When I started looking at the New World Order, I'd be surprised if there was half of that in the whole world who knew the phrase New World Order.
Yeah.
But for 100,000 people to come out, use that that calculation that government have to use when somebody complains. Yeah, for everyone that complains, you know, they have to assume 300 or something.
That's how they do the polls as well, isn't it? Sometimes, yeah.
So, you know, if somebody comes out to protest, they have to assume that 300 other people wanted to come out and protest but couldn't for some reason. So, you know, if 100,000 people turned up, you know, you're talking about 3 million, you know, assumed people who wanted to be there. So, so yeah, for that many people to be aware, that means the knowledge is out there, you know, that you know, about what's going on in this world.
And social media's had a huge role to play in it, hasn't it?
It has, but it's also, as I was saying last time I was on here, it's also had a bit of a limiting and a containing effect as well. So even though it does wake people up, it's also there to contain them once they are woken up.
Absolutely, it's their toy, it's their control mechanism. So, yeah, totally agree.
You know, if you remember the first time you used the internet, trying to think back to the first time you ever used the internet, right? You were all over the place. There were so many places to go, things to see, and you know, all these interesting sites to browse through. Now, most people only use like 3 or 4 things, you know, 3 or 4 things on the internet. You know, they go to Facebook, maybe YouTube, their email, and that's it. Maybe a magazine site, and that's it. You know, you've been controlled from this wide, expansive, billions of websites on you know, on the internet, narrowed down to a basic a few that the elite control.
Yeah, that's also the most subsidized, of course.
Of course, you know, they make it sound like it was created, you know, by some entrepreneurial type, but then you find out that no, the CIA was behind Facebook, and you know, they're behind Google, and they're behind you know, all the other big names.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's only one component to build actually my own hangout system.
Yeah, trouble is they don't really take off. There was one challenger not long ago called Scene, and a little while ago, there was a lot of people were saying, "Oh, we're going to leave Facebook and go onto Scene."
Yeah.
But that kind of died a death, you know. So
Yeah, it's for me. It's more that I want to use my own website to communicate with users on the website. Because within the website, we're doing actually all kinds of research and bring things together, etc., etc. Just kind of a build up of a tree of knowledge, all the branches, build up the complete model,
okay, cool.
etc. Actually explore the truth of the truth. And not only being in the depression side of the truth of the lies. It's also discovering who we are and what we are capable of and what the actual free energy stuff is, what's, for example, hidden. Yesterday we came on the idea, there was an experiment with 2 hoops and 2 buckets and then cross-linked connected through where you drop water, and that builds up a kind of tension.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing is, yeah, you need to put energy in getting the water up in the container. But what about the rain? Collect the rain in that system, then you can actually and then figure out how to subtract that energy to put that in bigger batteries or whatever, and that's pure free energy from the rain alone.
Well, I've actually I've got a video out called Practical Free Energy, and in it I show a design of using that system basically, and kind of reversing what's happening in a car. So you get that high voltage spark that comes out between those 2 buckets.
Yeah.
So that spark is very, very high voltage, but very, very low ampage. But you can, if you know what's going on in your car, where to generate that spark, you take a low voltage source, a 12-volt battery, but it's got a high ampage, and you take that 12 volts, you basically step it up into a high voltage low ampage spark to get your car going.
So it's like the microwave transformer in reverse.
Yeah.
As well.
So basically, if you take that spark and put it into the ignition coil of your car, you can turn that high voltage low ampage spark into a low voltage high ampage output that you can use to charge your battery.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can use that rain, that water going through into the buckets to keep a set of batteries charged.
Yeah. And that's really free energy from nature itself. It doesn't pollute in any way.
Right. One of the things that came out when I was doing the research for the video was my realization that where all these free energy devices, at least the ones I've been sort of playing around with, they're all sort of milling around the same energy. It's like the same. We're finding the same type of energy. It's not electricity. It's something like electricity. It flows like a gas, and it flows on the outside of wires. And it's what Tesla called radiant energy. And I was involved in the QEG build, and I saw that same energy coming out of the QEG. Sorry?
You have worked on the QEG.
Yeah, we had the UK build right here where I am now. I was also involved in the Morocco build.
All right. You actually met her.
Sorry?
Blue Mirror. Forgot her name.
Oh, Hope Girl.
Yeah, Hope more.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually stayed with them for a few months. It was a month or two in Morocco.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when we had the build here, we were actually doing a few variations on it, and we ended up with a very large spark gap, maybe 2 or 3 inches, and literally we got a massive jolt of energy jumping that spark gap. So, you know, when you consider the little gap in your spark plug in your car is like 40,000 volts or 40,000 volts to jump that gap. We were jumping a gap of like, you know, 2 or 3 inches, and it was like a big solid bright spark. So much it frightened us when it sort of happened. And that was the same energy that was coming out of I've got a Bedini 10 coil, which I have to actually go and get. Actually, somehow I've got to get it back here from Suffolk. But yeah, I've got a Bedini 10 coiler, and when we first got it working, we didn't have the connectors on the battery. The battery we were charging didn't have the connectors on the battery properly, and we got the same very bright, thick spark, you know, like Tesla style sparks on, you know, coming out of this Bedini. So we're all these ways of generating energy. It's always getting this same type of energy, the radiant energy that Tesla spoke about, and that energy is very, very interesting because when you look at the experiments that Tesla did in Colorado, he was generating this energy at different frequencies, and when he went at certain high frequencies, he noticed that the air molecules in the room started to light up, so the air started to give off light. So it was like you don't need light bulbs anymore. You could just switch this thing off, and the actual air would just light up. And he turned it up a bit further, and the air started moving around like cool breezes around the room. I can't remember all the other things that happened when he turned it up, but you know, it was really fascinating reading what he was doing with this. But I think we're basically getting sort of generating this energy. Well, no, generating isn't the right word. Attracting this energy with these free energy devices we're playing around with, but nobody has really found a way to harness it properly. Apart from, I think there is a way of harnessing it. It's the same way that John Bedini talked about, by forcing this energy into batteries or capacitors, and then you can use it as normal electricity. But I think we're using the byproduct of the real energy, the dirty byproduct of the real energy, and we've built a whole technology around this dirty byproduct, and we're just ignoring the real energy.
Yeah. We could actually use build devices for that particular energy.
Well, here's the interesting thing about this type of energy. It's something, it's wrapped up in consciousness. It's not just blind energy. It's linked somehow to consciousness, because the Bedini, when it was running, it would change its efficiency depending on who was near it. And if somebody in particular approached it, the efficiency would go down. It would work better at night. You know, I've forgotten all the other interesting things about it, but you know, I haven't got my Well, it's in this video, the practical free energy.
Particular energy C in where we actually function as well.
Say again.
It's particularly working from the energy C in where we are functioning as well.
Yes.
And our function is actually influencing it.
Yeah. The energy spike that you get out of the Bedini energizer is a very special kind of H wave. Yeah. And John Bedini actually realized that that H wave is exactly the same as nerve impulses in humans. So his theory is that that we derive our electrical power in the same way as his device or attracts this this energy. It's like there's a nerve impulse, and our chemical makeup draws in energy from around us. Just like when you feed this H wave into a battery, the H wave isn't charging the battery, but when the battery gets this impulse from the Bedini, the battery starts drawing in energy from the vacuum, because the battery actually runs cold while it's being charged up this way, rather than heating up when you charge it conventionally. It actually draws energy from the environment. So yeah, there's something connected to our consciousness that that this energy works on, or maybe it is our consciousness. Maybe it is. There's okay. Sorry, stop me if I'm talking too much, because I will go off on this. Most people have heard of Masaru Emoto and his work with water. Water has a memory. Yeah. I tell this story that a friend of mine, when we were hooking up these batteries for to power a festival, power a tent at festival, he was telling me how what he did once was take a battery that was completely dead, and he wrote a label. He sort of stuck a label on both sides of this battery, and he put 13 volts. He wrote 13 volts on this label. He put it up on a shelf, and intended 13 volts into this battery every day. Take time out of his day to intend 13 volts into this battery. Okay. And after 2 weeks or so, he took the battery down, measured it, and it had 13 volts in it. So I was like, wow, that's cool. So as soon as I got back, I had these little Radio Shack batteries, 12-volt batteries, and one of them was completely dead. So just to be a smart ass, I put 13.7 volts on the label, and put it up and somewhere, and every day for 2 weeks I intended 13.7 volts into it, and at the end of the 2 weeks, took it down, got my multimeter, put it on there. It was dead. I was like, yeah. Oh, okay, must have been doing it wrong or something. So I forgot about it, and then later on, I was messing around with one of my free energy devices, and I thought, well, I better charge this battery up so I can use it. So I charged it up, and after a few hours, I took it off the charger, measured it, 13.7 volts. Anyway, so yeah, there's something about consciousness that's linked with this, and perhaps we're not ready for it yet, but perhaps here's a way of looking at it. This intention of charging that battery that my friend managed to do by himself, maybe that intention is actually what charged the battery. Yeah, if he completely believed that this would actually charge a battery, just like, you know, water managing to you know, retain a memory.
It's not like putting to the test, but actually confirming your energy.
Yeah, I mean, what if a battery charger is just a metaphor that allows you to charge the battery yourself because you believe that the battery charger is going to do it.
Yes.
You know, because you know there's
and it's all.
Sorry.
And that, I mean, yeah, everything is electromagnetic anyway, and it's just making use of your intent to flow that energy into the battery.
Yeah. There was a quantum mechanics experiment where what they did was they made up this box with a button on it and lots of meaningless electronics that didn't do anything. They just put some, you know, diodes and resistors and capacitors in there, and it didn't actually do anything. But they sent this device to a group of meditators, and this group of meditators sat and they intended a use for this device. So the use that they put in, you know, the intention they put in onto this device was to make water go up by one pH. So change the alkalinity and or acidity of the water. So they meditated on that, and then they sort of sealed this intention into this device. Then they sent this device off to a lab, and somebody completely disconnected from this other part of the experiment, you know, took it out of a foil bag, put it next to a glass of water, pressed the button, and what it did was it raised the pH of that water, simply because of the intention that was placed on it. So again, what if when we use a battery charger, the battery charger isn't actually doing anything apart from you know, allowing us to believe enough in the process that we actually end up charging the battery.
Yeah. That's
just an idea.
Same as SIBO.
Well, I'm just gonna.
Well, is the healer. But...
Right, I'm just gonna have to get a glass of water. I'm just so I'll drop off for a second.
Okay then, Dave. Thanks.
All right.
Good idea.
Thirsty work talking, isn't it?
Karen, while Dave's gone, I've got to shoot off in a minute because I'm on the early shift tomorrow morning, so I've got to be up at 4:30. So it'd probably be a good chance just to talk about my recent data collection, what I've been doing. Because I know Billy's got to shoot soon, and I thought now would be quite a good time to explain what I've been doing over the last few days. So, as you're aware, on my moon race experiment, I'd timed the moon on the tropics, on the equator. But what I'd always done, you see, I'd always basically started on the Tropic of Cancer, then I'd gone to the equator, then I'd wait till the moon got to the Tropic of Capricorn. What I've never done is actually took the measurements and the readings on the way back. So from when it goes from Capricorn to the equator and back to Cancer, I never bothered with that because it was irrelevant at the time. My experiment was based on just being in them three positions at the time. So what I've done, I've basically gone to Mooncalc. I set it to London, and I set it from December 26th, and I've basically gone right through. I thought I'd gone to July, but I've only documented up until March the 10th. 2016. So I've gone from December 26, 2015, right through to March the 10th, 2016. And like my previous experiment, moon race, I've been timing the gaps in the meridian. So for example, on December 26th, the moon was on the Tropic of Cancer. So I've timed the gap between the 26th meridian and the 27th meridian. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it, Dave.
Yeah. So as I started off, I've got the exact same results as I got with my previous experiment in February, moon race, and in March. So on the Tropic of Cancer, between the 26th and 27th, I timed the meridian gap, and the first reading for that was 24 hours, 54 minutes and 16 seconds. I thought I'd added another decimal now. I'd go down to the second. So then obviously on the 31st, when the moon was over the equator, this was between 4:34 on the 31st and 5:17 on the 1st of January, because it went into the next month. And so on the equator, the same pattern as before, 24 hours and 42 minutes. So it's nearly, what's that, 12 minutes quicker on the equator than it is on the Tropic of Cancer.
Oh,
so you can see it's quite a big jump, really. You know, for one day, you are talking like 12 minutes difference in time. So, and then on the Tropic of Capricorn for January, between January 7th and 8th, the time dropped back to 24 hours and 52 minutes and 7 seconds. So same pattern again. The moon is speeding up when it heads towards the equator, but slows down when heading towards the Tropic of Capricorn. Now we all know that on the circling model, it would need to actually speed up that same difference again. So you would expect it to be probably 12 or 13 minutes quicker on the actual Tropic of Capricorn, but obviously it's actually slowed down by the same amount nearly. So but the interesting thing is that I've never collated any data past that. So then I went to January the 14th and January the 15th, when the moon was back on the equator. And interestingly, the moon took 24 hours, 51 minutes and 48 seconds, nearly identical to the Tropic of Capricorn. There's 1 minute difference in it. So even though it speeded up when it went to the equator, then slowed down to Capricorn, when it went back to the equator again, it's kept the relevance, the relative speed. There is no speed, there is no difference in it other than 1 minute. So then, which really wrecked my head at the time, right? But I think I might have an understanding of the basics of this. So then I went to the Tropic of Cancer on January the 21st and January the 22nd. And again, 24 hours, 54 minutes and 15 seconds. So it slowed down slightly by 3 minutes again. And then again, you start the new path or the new cycle again when it goes onto the equator on January the 28th, between January 28th and 29th. Again, it speeds up 24 hours, 42 minutes and 47 seconds. Again, 12 minutes quicker than on the Tropic of Cancer. And then we'll go to February the 4th and February the 5th when it's on the Tropic of Capricorn. And what do you know it slows down again to 24 hours, 52 minutes. So you can see now that I'm starting to build a pattern up now. So what it's doing, it's speeding up, slowing down, staying the same, speeding up, slowing down, staying the same. I'll just go back to the equator on February 11th and 12th. And again, 24 hours, 53 minutes and 52 seconds. It's actually slower than it were on Capricorn, but only by by 1 minute. So it's quite an interesting pattern. Again, February 17th and February 18th, when it's back on the Tropic of Cancer, 24 hours, 53 minutes again, and 31 seconds. 1 second difference between the equator and the Tropic of Cancer. But when it's heading from the Tropic of Cancer to the equator, again, it speeds up 24 hours, 43 minutes and 34 seconds. Now, this is it's thrown a little bit of a spanner in the works, to say the least. But to me, it still obviously shows that the circle model is clearly it doesn't work on the circle model. What the moon's doing in reality doesn't fit that circle model one little bit. And I've had a little look at a model on the actual heliocentric model on the lunar cycle. This is not easy information to find. To find a working model where you see the moon going around the Earth. But I did find a project from somebody at a university who did it as a project, and they used NASA's own moon data. So they're using the actual correct data, and they built it on using Cinema 4D, which is quite a good model. But it doesn't say in that model that the moon speeds up or slows down only on that crossing the equator, because what they'll use in the model is that 5.1 degree inclination. You know what I mean? There is a crossing where that 5 degrees crosses, but up until now I can't find no information, because in the heliocentric model, what the moon should do is speed up as it gets to its closest approach to the ball Earth, which would be at perigee, and then as it's past that mark, then it would slow down in its orbit until it passed apogee, and then it would start speeding up again. Now, what I need to do now is actually build a bit more of this data and try and use it to debunk the heliocentric model, because this is what this is all about. This is not trying to prove any particular model. This is just to debunk the heliocentric model. But until I can find an actual full working model which actually shows where and when the moon is actually speeding up in its orbit, it's very difficult. So that's where I'm at the moment. But it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on the motions. So it's speeding up, it's slowing down, it stays the same speed, stays the same speed. It speeds up, it slows down, it stays the same speed, it stays the same speed. But like I say, where that would fit in with the actual globe model, I don't know, because it only speeds up on the equator. And I'm sure in the globe model that 5% inclination wouldn't be just when it's over the equator. So they'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that.
I think that one's at you, series, or Billy.
Yes, I figure there's only one type of analemma for the sun. It doesn't matter. The analemma itself moves all over the place, but it seems that the moon has a different one, as you see here through the image. Yeah, it's not a complete cycle, and I guess we just need more of all those cycles put together, like particularly that sun one we saw already of how that analemma was collected over, I don't know how much time, at least a year.
I think it's a year, yeah.
It almost seems like it has to speed up and slow down to not coincide with the sun.
Yeah,
it's
faster than the sun.
Right.
The analemma pendula is faster, 13 times faster. But
yeah, 13 times faster. Yeah, so it's swinging back south fast, but it's coming back slow. So, which is interesting. But like I say, looking at the heliocentric model with the lunar cycle, the odds on it just being over that equator, because it'd have to basically be on that 5 degree cross. You know, when it actually crosses, when you know what I mean, where it would be at its equatorial point in the cycle. You know what I mean? Because it's aligned with the actual ecliptic and not the equatorial path. So it's finding out whether it just speeds up then, because really, if you think about it, it would be as it's going around its short the closest path until it gets past perigee, starts slowing down, and once it's past apogee, speeding up again.
This same speed seems the most brightest part in the front, and then the other is the steeper angle, where you actually see the speed up.
Yeah. So, like I say, that's where I'm at the moment. It is quite time consuming to build this data. I need 3 screens open all the time because I'm using time and date to actually calculate the actual time as well, which is saved me a bit. I did a calculator last time. I never thought about it looking on time and date. You basically just put the date in any time you want to the date and time, and it'll tell you, and it'll calculate the hours and minutes, which is brilliant because, like I say, I did it all with a calculator last time, and it took me hours because when you're working with 60 seconds and 60 minutes, it's a lot difficult to work with 100. It's a lot easier, isn't it? So that's where I'm at. But it's like I say, you think you've learned something, then another spanner gets thrown in the works. Every time I've found out something or realised something else always comes along, and this has been the constant since I've started looking into the moon. Every single time
you find it, it just leads you on to more and more.
Exactly, and it's just never ending. And
I've come to a conclusion about that app as well that you were showing us.
Which one was that? Sorry.
How the moon goes back on itself, or the sun, and flips and comes back again and goes.
Not yet, because like I say, I spent all my time yesterday just collating this data, because like I say, I was going to use this data towards my presentation. At the UK Flat Earth conference. I'm building the data up, and I'm going to do a basic, presentation, and that was my plan. And this is part of that process, but like I say, it's just you can't find a working model. You know what I mean? You think in this day and age, 2017, all the technology NASA's got, we should have a full live image of the actual lunar cycle traveling around the ball Earth. But you know what I mean? What we've got the epic shot where you've got like 12 frames of, obviously you can see it's not real for starters. If anybody's seen that, the epic moon passing, then you'll realise what I'm on about. But until I can find a proper working heliocentric model, I'm going to be stuck. I'm sure there's something out there, and maybe I can get Steve Torrance to maybe do something, because I know he's got all NASA's lunar numbers and figures, because I think I gave him to you series one time, didn't I? The moon over 100 years.
One single location, that's the point. And I discovered Karen came with a link to a military site where I discovered I could actually get the readings of a whole year from any latitude, longitude on the GPS map.
Do you know how that happens?
I figure I collect a complete grid of that and make that visible at once in every time scale. In a sense that,
like I say,
you pointed out from all locations, and you can see how things are bended.
Like I say, obviously, I've only built that data up from the location in London. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the same again near on the equator, probably Ecuador or somewhere like that, and build up the same data over a year, and then do it somewhere like New Zealand or Chile, somewhere further south. I'll try and get the furthest city south. And build the data up. Like, in the previous moon race experiments, I used the data from New Zealand and from the UK, and the meridian passing on them same days was within like 30 seconds, within a minute of each other. So a few people said to me, maybe it's parallax from where I'm observing in the north. When an object's further away from you, it appears to go slower. But that's not the case, because like I say, I actually took the readings from New Zealand as well, where the moon is literally perpendicular with the observer on top of them, and you get the exact same readings you get in the UK. So that you know what I mean. It's not a parallax thing or anything like that. But that's where I'm at the moment. So I'm gonna have to shoot now, guys, because like I say, I've got to be put 4:30 to my job.
Dave, just saying that the reason when it was the military thing was that I went to try and see if you could get the time and date thing from another site so that you had another body taking information, because everybody's going to the same web page to get all the information. And it was only when we found all these longitude and latitudes and I went to copy and paste the header bar URL, and suddenly it read Navy. It said Navy something or other, but this was not a Navy site. This is a longitude. What was it? What was the site series? Do you remember? Longitude and latitudes. But it didn't say Navy when you came to the page, but it was in the header bar. So there you go. They know everything.
Okay, Dave, thanks for the information. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Dave.
So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you all, and nice to see you again, Dave. And
yeah, likewise, Dave. Say hi to Susie for me.
Hi, Susie. Yeah. Okay, then I'm going to shoot. Have a good evening.
Okay,
Take
Dave.
care.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you so much for coming on, Dave.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your work.
Okay, cheers. Bye.
So, you've had a glass of water now, Dave. You feeling better? The other Dave.
Yes, I am. I didn't catch, because I was away from the screen and everything, I didn't catch everything that Dave was saying, but from what I did gather, it seemed very interesting. I did find out something else that was, I don't know if anybody caught it. There was a guy called Dimension Dan,
Right.
who came up with a very, very interesting theory, that there's two types of light. There's sunlight and there's daylight, and they're two different things. Has anybody come across this?
I've got a video on my own channel about that.
This light was created before the sun and moon were created.
Right, but what he's saying is, and this is where it makes a lot of sense to me. It's very plausible to me, is that there's a very particular mix of gases in the air. There's argon and neon and I can't remember the others. What they call the noble gases, and they make up 1% of the gases in the air. And what he's saying is that you've got helium, goes up to the top of, let's imagine there is a dome. It goes up to the top of the dome, yeah, as well as all these noble gases. They're up there as well. And just like if you have a neon bulb, if you get a neon bulb and you put it close to a high voltage source like a Tesla coil, yeah, without it being connected, that neon gas will glow. It will glow a particular color, a particular frequency, a blue, yeah. And when you get this mix of neon, argon, and all the other noble gases, you get all the colors that you will see in a sunset or a sunrise. So if you imagine the sun is simply just a point source of high voltage that's moving around, and not only does it put out its own electromagnetic radiation, that we call sunlight, but it also excites the gas and causes daylight as well. So it's not just the light of the sun that's
direct.
The spotlight. It's actually
Also the field.
Yeah, the field itself is lighting up a portion of the neon and the argon and all those gases, which again I think could explain a few things if you assume that like I do, that beyond Antarctica, there are much more in the way of, continents and stuff. And I was trying to figure out, okay, if beyond Antarctica there are more continents, how are they getting lit up? Is there another sun out there or what? So maybe.
Yeah, my perspective is different in Beyonds, that I take the square in an east-west looping as a looping space.
Mm-hmm.
And north-south is the same principle of looping, but it is the second dimension. And through the Flower of Life sacred geometry, I discovered that first to begin, I had already 3 squares data. I just couldn't put it anywhere until I put a Flower of Life grid on it. And from there, I discovered that I need at least 26 squares to complete the circle for the 5th dimension, in that sense, in north-south direction. And south, I can actually see when you look at the 2-dimensional side from above, then you see in the south a ground base. In the middle, you see a kind of a tree growing, and then in the top you have the heavens of the sea. And it is like you look at a growing tree out of the ground. And the south seems to be the ground in descending way, and the north seems to be the sky, the heavens, in ascending way. And what story I get is that the south is actually protected by the angels, and the north is protected by the angels, and the south by the demons, by the fallen.
Series, do you want to show a picture now, as you've explained all that? Do you want to show a picture?
Yeah. That's
because we listen to series all the time, but some people don't listen to series all the time, so might not know what he's talking about. So it's best maybe to show a picture.
Here in the south, we have a complete ground.
Playing series, it's loop. That's a looping. All that's looping. So there's 1, 2, there's 3 of us on there.
Yeah. And then you have here the deep sea, the deepest part of all the seas, also compared to north. This is 5-6 kilometers. Then you have the land as the tree, and on top of that, under the sea, you have the northern pillars, and at the bottom you have that duck thing. What is the ++ south pillar, and then between the 2 green, you have an upwards moving, where the blue point in the middle is the ± pillar. Actually, yeah, on the yellow circles below, and then the blue circles on top are the northern pillars. And then you have that whole heavenly part, but the circles are shorter than the squares. What causes that to loop the circle into the next square, east-west, we need only 1 square, but north-south, we need at least 13 to end up in the middle of the circle again. And I figure the 13th is the heavens square circle part, and then it goes down again back to the earth with again 13 steps ending up here in the middle of this square. And that's how the Flower of Life pattern works within the square. You have the spatial grid is in a square sense, but the energetical grid, the heavenly grid, is all in the circles. And it seems to me the triangles are kind of the translating field between the square and the circle. And
Just in
adjustment
case
is
he doesn't see it quite like that series, or the chat room don't see it, is there any way you could just show the picture with the pillars on it, the 4 pillars, so that people can just see that on its own? Because they're looking at a lot of colours and they're looped. There's 2 or 3 of them. So could you just show that picture of the 4 pillars?
Yeah, a moment. Do we see it? Does anyone see this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the sort of same bit of land again, but you can see 2 pillars at the top and 2 pillars at the bottom.
Yeah, this is still lined up with exact latitude longitude 0.0, but I discovered that I actually have to line up the circles, the flower of life grid with the Sun Analema crossing, what I base on the golden ratio between the tropic and the equator, and the wave of the sun lining up with the golden ratio and latitude 0.0, and that causes that actually this particular center of the mountain got centered for the pillar, and then here this particular blue area got centered, and it lines up as well with the south wave. It's not in this particular, but these are the particular 4 pillars, what I call the 4 pillars. These are the 4 crossings of the flower of life pattern. And then east-west, this is the half circle, what is here, the rest of the half circle, because it's the looping space. I know it's hard for people to get the looping part, because it's just not parallel, it's just the same. And you're just you can only prove it by walking the circle yourself and end up at the same place, while you've actually only walked a straight line or sailed a straight line.
Yeah, because it's a realm we live in. And,
Yeah,
and I explained it in one of my videos about this whole thing. It's a bit like a computer game. You know, when you get on the computer game and everything always goes with you. The land is in front of you, in front of you, in front of you, and it always goes wherever you go. That's what we're living in.
Yeah, and that's the 4th dimensional principle of what free energy is trying to explain. He uses only the GPS square map because nobody actually has finished the particular triple square of the UTM format. And the UTM global map they show with all the square blocks is actually based on this squeezed in triple square, in where they have the A and B and Y and Z blocks, who are actually the 2 squares on top and on the bottom. And the rest is just all pure squared within the square of the minus and plus 85-degree GPS.
Yeah, each pillar, there's 2 pillars at the top and 2 at the bottom. One's plus, one's minus, one's plus, one's minus, and they're opposite each other on the poles of each other. So
the plus in the right bottom, the plus of the minus in the right top, the plus minus in the left bottom, and the the plus minus, and the minus plus in the left top. These are the 4 different polarity combinations you can make with a double polarity. All 4 different pillars.
can I just say, series, that Chris has joined us now. Chris, do you want to say hello to Dave? Chris lives in Canada.
Hello, Dave, and hello all. Yep, nice to
Hey, Chris.
meet you.
Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Excellent. Nice to meet you, Dave. First time I've hung out with you, so nice to meet you as well.
Pleasure meeting you too, or almost meeting you.
Virtual.
Chris, just explain to Dave what your what's your what your career's been, what your field of work is too, because obviously Chris has come on board with series now. But anyway, you explain it, Chris.
Well, I started working in the construction industry. Well, to be very honest, I guess I would be about 6 or 7 years old. I was holding a stick from my father. He was a civil engineer and designer working for McCain Foods. So I remember being 6 years old holding a stick with the dozers going by me while he was doing the surveying. So I learned at an early age how to hold a survey stick. I started my construction career when I was about 16 or 17, summer jobs, and then carried that right through until 2 years ago. And eventually ended up working on some of the biggest projects that this realm has ever seen as a quality assurance manager in civil, piping, mechanical, and welding inspector, Canadian Welding Bureau. So big steel, big lifts. I've seen some of the biggest lifts that in history performed in front of me with cranes and like Big Blue and so forth. The biggest cranes that this place has ever seen. So I've been standing right in front of it in person. So that's where I'm coming from.
Big enough to make the pyramids?
It would be close. Yeah, Big Blue, I think, is I have to pull up the specs on it, but it's about 500 or 600 feet. No problem. It can pick and lift. Yeah.
Okay. Is that challenge accepted then?
Yeah, I don't think it would do it though. No.
Explain that what you're doing now, like all these things that you're doing at home. Just explain a little bit today, because it's a bit like you're looking from the sky and Ceres has been looking from the ground, if you understand, and they now realise their work is quite intertwined. But you explain it, Chris.
Well, like most people, I started out, trying to debunk, do the debunk thing, right? I'm like, okay, well, I've designed fire trucks and electrical systems for, automotive and everything. I know how to run AutoCAD and Blender and stuff. So I started doing the 3D modeling. I'm like, well, I'll do a model to scale of the globe and the moon and the sun and just, wrong. That's absolutely crazy. When I first started out a couple of years ago, right? So, and here I am 2 years later, and I still can't simulate a solar eclipse shadow on the North Pole caused by the moon, right? In reality, with a light, all to scale, right? I spin the ball whatever way I want at 5 degrees inclination on a z-axis of 23 degrees tilt. It can't be done. I can't simulate any of that stuff in reality, right? So now I've flipped that around, and I've joined up a series here, and we're looking at a new realm. I mean, the pizza pie map that Karen calls it. We know that the azimuthal it focuses everything to the north, right, and distorts the land, right? So now we're into the fourth dimension type of stuff, right? To see how it all works, or change the land, and it's got to work, right? So if I can't make it in a 3D reality, then it doesn't exist in my mind, from an engineering and technical perspective, right?
So this theory, how does it jive with the beyond the poles information? Worlds beyond poles.
Well, that's what I'm trying. Okay, go ahead, Sirius. Yeah.
For me, at least, it ties big time into the world beyond the poles. That gave me the idea of getting beyond with the circles of the flower of life, and actually figure out how far that goes. And I figured I have to end up with particularly 26 squares fill up with every 13 squares contain 15 circles. So you take 15 circle steps to fill up 13 squares as one step, and then you do that again to end up at the same place to complete the 5th-dimensional loop. And that's just 26 times the 24,901 miles to go beyond, actually to complete the whole flat plane in the dimensional sense. And yeah, that's just a big part of where we don't have data for, and the data goes up till the north edge and the south edge.
Ceres, your screen's black.
Oh. Why is my screen black?
It's not now. Carry on.
Well, maybe this one. I figured also how they actually translate all this data back into the projections they show us. And most people only know the right side and never have seen the left one. So far, I haven't never met actually anyone telling me they knew this data was there. And the only thing I did was actually fill up the last 5 degrees from the GPS map in the photographic version of how they actually request their photographs. And all these photographs are pure squares and adding up to one big pure square with the missing 5 degrees on the top and on the bottom. And that particular GPS formula they use to work between the left map and the top map is a wave function in where they use a tangus, and they end up with a kind of infinity problem, using that as an excuse that they twist something. I don't know why, but so far I figured the left map is the original photographic format. So that is reality, because there lies the detail of our empirical proof of what our own location looks like. As you completely zoom in into the whole world. And that's what I try to prove with what they do, how that gets transformed. Let me pick one. Where is it?
Series is looking for another picture right now.
I'm not.
So if everybody, oh, carry on, Dave.
I'm not sure I've got a grasp on 5-dimensional geometry.
The fifth and fourth is the next step, realizing what the squares themselves are. Well, yeah, 4D is a hard thing to grasp. It's simply the only way I can explain it is that you walk on finite infinity. A finite in the sense that you an infinity in the sense that you can walk a circle forever. But when you cut the circle line, you actually have a finite length of a line, and that is the actual size of the square. And that's why we have this particular square.
Dave understands a bit though, because on the hangout we had, you said that you'd done stuff with mapping. Isn't that right, Dave?
You're muted there, Dave.
Yeah, I did, but as I said, it's only sort of projecting, basically projecting a flat map onto a sphere, really, and vice versa.
Yeah, that's what I did, and what I say here is the empirical data shows that what they do. In the left side here, for example, this is the actual square image you get from Google Maps when you completely zoom in. And this is also generating the complete square as the complete square map of the whole world. And then only up till the 85 latitude along latitude minus and plus. The second image shows what they do when you actually create a GPS one-on-one map. That's the one we see mostly. And then on the right, you see actually what happens when you also adjust the longitude of the X side of the image. And then you see how it actually gets twisted onto the ball. But their application is built on that when you zoom in at a certain level that you can actually see detail, you see only the left image. But when you zoom out, they actually transform this particular image into the ball projection. From a certain point, you can't even recognize the details anymore. So this is how they fool you into a ball.
Yeah, they've layered it. Yeah, they've taken the flat map, and then as you zoom out, they morph it into a three-dimensional bubble, and then the perspective changes. Yeah, they're warping it as you zoom out. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And the empirical details shows this through the formulas they use actually to transform between the one and the other.
Yeah, so basically, I think the only logical conclusion you can draw from what series is saying there is if it is flat, it is square, you have to have this dimensional looping. Now, the 4D dimensional looping is the east-west looping, yeah? And that's the 25,000 mile, give or take, map that we know and see. But that you've got to remember is looped in a finitely infinite loop. So there's no end, there's no beginning, unless you choose to make a dissection, like Siri said, and lay it out, if you know what I mean. So you can have the beginning and end could be anywhere. So it's all about what we perceive.
The proof that it is a fourth dimensional circle is by walking the straight line and ending up at the same place. And that's what we've done for ages. So far I know. And that actually is the proof for that it exists as a space loop. So far we figured it's not a ball, it doesn't spin, so it's flat. Then we figured it's not a circle either. So we're left with the square. That's the only thing we have for so far. And yeah, by finding the actual extra squares beyond north and south through their own GPS formula, by actually finishing the ball map into the triple square of the XY on the photographic factor, because that's the actual reality. Yeah, I ended with the triple square, and eventually with that particular elevation map, because the only thing I could use to fill it up was the elevation, because the elevation is requestable through the latitude longitude. I can't request that on the XY position, but I calculate the actual latitude longitude from the XY positions to fill up an icon of elevation and build up a complete map from the whole world on practically every level possible. But
and this is very much where the proof side comes in, isn't it, series? Because this is something that people can go out and check for themselves. So, I mean, if you've got, I mean, all right, it's not exactly something you can do for free, but if you've got a drone that's got a camera that isn't a fisheye lens, you can take it up, take a similar picture of that. And then, I mean, obviously you'd need loads of people, but you could all put these pictures together and show it for yourself. So it is something that is provable, I think.
Exactly.
Oh, I think we've just popped out.
We've just lost Dave.
Oh.
He must have pressed a button on there. I reckon he pressed something and he'll be back.
Wrong one.
Thanks for that, Dee.
No, that's okay. Like I say, I know it can be a bit hard to understand when you're not used to talking about the hyperdimensional realm kind of thing, and just talking about the actual map itself. So I do try and think of it in a different way, like I say.
Mm.
Like I say, it's just my understanding of it anyway. So hopefully it makes it a bit clearer for some people, because I know sometimes it can get quite technical.
Yeah, and series has already explained, if anybody keeps coming back on these hangouts, that it doesn't matter, we will explain it again and again and again for people to understand, because talking about it series, sometimes you've got to show the pictures because it's just so much information and people can't see it because you've uncovered all this and understand it much more than we do.
Yes.
You better explain what you're showing, series.
Yeah, the top part is the triple square, but then turned around to the right, so I could actually put it into an image. And then the bottom part is the presentation of the GPS. And in the top you see the wave, where you see on the top-down direction how the latitude value is translated into the XY value. And that's a particular wave, which you can see. And then in the bottom blue part, you see how the Y actually translates on the GPS map. And there you see how actually everything is twisted into a few pixels from the top and the bottom, and in the middle actually is stretched up. So you get a bigger Africa in that sense.
Yeah, and series is just trying to show you what they kind of do to make it into these other maps. They just squish the information, but the information's really there.
Yeah.
And you realised, didn't you, on the map at the bottom, that they were trying to squish everything into, like, did you say 1 pixel or something, series?
Yeah. 2/3 of the square disappears into a single pixel when you actually project it eventually on the ball. It just completely disappears. It's such a infinity formula that it's just impossible to get all that data out of that pixel and then line up this way. Particularly the southern wave. What is actually lining up with the flower of life grid. When you line it up with the sun and Anima, you have to figure that out. But it's just a pure intuitive result of search, figuring out, because I really want to know. You know?
Google Maps know what we're living on, though, don't they?
They know damn well.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're storing some readings, compass readings on Google Maps, and when you can get the whole of England in the picture, everything is straight. But the moment you start to pan out, everything bends, or everything curves. The land curves. But even you can have the whole of England in there, which is still quite a big piece of land, and the lines are straight. And then they also loop it. So Google Maps know exactly what we're living in.
Something this obviously isn't the real map, right? But it's a visual aid, because I was trying to figure out,
Hang on.
in my mind, you know, how Sirius explains it as the looping thing, right? Because I'm still trying to figure out how you fly and make a flight from LA to China, and what, you know, to make things connect, you know, in a physical.
Well, I'm always saying, take the
physical
point always in the middle.
Right. So what I did is I took a square, right, a basic cube, four-sided square, and then I just curve the corners in right enough just to make it so it appears like the globe model that Google is using, right, and then I superimposed a GPS accurate map that's actually the flight maps, right, because we were talking about the flight maps the other day, right?
Yeah.
And then what I figured is, you can see if I zoom in on it a little bit here, and I'll rotate it slow, so I mean it's an accurate to scale, right, map of the flight path, right? So I was trying to figure out, well, how do you get from, say, you know, wherever, and why aren't there any flights across Antarctica and so forth? And they keep saying, oh, well, it's a slightly oblate spheroid, so that's kind of how I morphed the squared and then laid the map on it, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then the fourth dimensional thing came into it. Is like when I started, you know, scaling things up and down, right? So when I looked at the North Pole, when you go on Google Maps, Google Earth, and you zoom into the center of the North Pole and or the South Pole, right, you always see this circle above it that is warped. It's always warped, right? So if I flip my ball I made, right,
Yeah.
to simulate theirs, and you go into Antarctica, you'll see that whatever, all that data from the flat map you have is being morphed, like you said, morphed into that single point, right?
Yeah.
Right. So I want to say, you know, how did they do that? And why are they doing that? Why is it always that way, right? Just to answer the question. And then what happens is, I'll just take this, give you a little bit bigger screen here if I can. If you start changing the thickness, it's an inverted double-sided square. So if you start changing the thickness, watch what happens.
Yeah.
The North Pole starts coming out of the top. So here's Antarctica inverted, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then it starts coming out again, right? It'll
Yeah.
start flying, it'll come out until you end up with a pizza map, right? If I zoom out, right? So you can to infinity keep rolling it in and out, in and out, in and out of itself, right? You'll end up with an azimuthal equidistant map, right? Eventually, if you scale it right, and it just keeps rolling and rolling and rolling, right? So that's what they've done. That's how they've pulled it off. So that's why then in their pictures you end up with a square thing. So I thought that was interesting. That at least now I know what they're doing, right? Right? You can morph it inside and out of itself forever, right? And still end up with a globe, right? And the flight paths are accurate, you know, etc. Because it's a real map, right? So. So we're on the trail, right? Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
It's really annoying though, isn't it, as well? Because you're taking data that comes from them.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
the only data.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem, right? The only data we have comes from their model, right?
Actually, put it in a ball, you actually twist up all the distances.
That's correct. Yeah.
I mean,
everything is warped, right?
Yeah. Lines, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why when you go on the Google Maps or Google Earth, you can't draw a line 90 degrees on any line of latitude and maintain a 90-degree heading. Like if you started in Alaska or whatever, and you said I want to go 90 degrees east or west, if you hold that heading, you'll end up at the equator, right? Because they've warped it, right? It is a cube square, right, in the model and on the map, right, in three-dimensional or fourth-dimensional would be three-dimensional sense, right? All the coordinates on the X, Y, Z are to a cube, and then they roll it into a ball, essentially. That's what they're doing.
Not to interrupt, but any word on Dave yet?
No. I just put a message in chat to say I hope he's coming back. No, he's not. No, maybe he's turned his computer on and off. I don't know. Sorry. Carry on, Chris.
Yeah, that's cool. And what got me onto that was I was trying to correct. You know, this is kind of just interest. This is I'm not trying to go for the whole, you know, Masonic thing or whatever, but I was trying to remove the curvature from the flight paths, right? So if you fly from New York to Heathrow, England, right, London, England, on the maps, there's always that arching curve, right? And no plane would fly, you know, they would leave, you know, 45 latitude, fly up into 60 latitude and drop back down into 45 latitude. It makes no you know, particular sense, right? If you're pretty much running a straight line. To a degree you would, but not to the extent that they're showing. So the only way to straighten that out so that it makes sense for straight line from South America to there, you know, straight line in any direction, it's a pyramid, right? Pyramid, roll it into a ball, right? And that's what you end up with. Very strange. Yeah.
Keeps all twisted here. Yeah, it's a way to find out how to actually. That's why I like to actually completely start from the start.
Yeah, go backwards. Yeah, yeah.
Circle and the squares, making them actually cubes.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Cube set. And the only way you can actually explain the next level is by closing these circles. First of all, fourth dimension as an 8-figure folding the dimension in two sides upwards and downwards, that it meets in the middle, and then you have the fifth dimensional actually also the up and the down as the below fourth and the up fourth. And that you can actually put in a part of the snake of the 7 chakras. And that's the bigger step beyond there again.
Yeah, you
So
get
it's
into
level,
that. Yeah.
level, build it up and eventually twist reality into those dimensions to see those dimensions in the 3D on 2D. It's a bit, you're still explaining the next levels, but yeah, it's kind of this.
Thanks
Yeah.
for explaining, though, Chris, how they made the the round map. Then, thanks for explaining to everybody how they did that.
Yeah, if you take you take the same, you can take, if you take a donut, like a torus donut shape, and then scale it down slightly on the z-axis to make it flatter, like a pizza dough, right? And then you do exactly the same thing with the globe map superimposed on that, and then you roll it inside out, right? It will do the same thing. I'll see if I can pull it up here just to show you exactly how that's working too. I compared the two. I'm trying to go after it all, right? Just a second here, because I think I got one set up for that as well. We can turn off the.
Yeah, that was my whole setup as well, actually, to disprove any map what doesn't.
Yeah.
But
Any map don't work, disprove it.
With the map what does work.
Yeah.
Before I knew it.
Okay, let's go screen share application window again. Try this one. Now I go. This one.
Oh, as a donut.
Yeah, I was going to see if I could get that one to work too. I had this working there last night. But then I went and changed the shape of it a little bit. But
yeah, it's always the question: where is the measurable curvature?
Yeah. When you go to that. You can really start to see how it's being manipulated, right?
Yeah. It seems like that Buddha map.
Yeah, so that's kind of, it works the same way, right? If you start rolling it out, right, you'll end up with the
double ice ring. Yeah.
Right. There's the ice ring. Ice ring will start to form. You can see it. I don't have this quite perfect, but last night I had it set perfect. You just got to scale it a little bit differently, and right, scale it here. Go onto the z-axis. Scale it down a little bit till it's almost flat. Right.
Whoa.
Right. Scale it down, and then you can start manipulating the right rings inside of rings inside of rings. Right. It keeps making the same. Right. Right. So you can generate any map you want, right? I mean, there would be, the ice ring's melted, and here's a map, whatever, so many years from now, and we got a little bit of islands of ice, and right. So that's exactly what's happening in the 3D data, right? It's a UTM manipulation on the 3D.
Yeah, exactly.
And I like this one here when you zoom it like that, because this is the because I was trying in the square map, the flat map that you sent me there, right? And the all the data that's in the southern part, which is the Antarctica ice, right? Because when you start stretching that out, it's like, wow, there's all these mountain ranges and everything down there, right? It's been squashed into the center pole, right? So all this white area here is is actual imagery from Google Earth, right? That's exactly what it looks like when you stretch it out into a donut and then zoom into the top, right? Right. Or flight path, right? Because I'm trying to figure out the flight path, right?
See,
Well,
that's the
I-
whole thing with the circle map, is that they don't want you to know that there's more land up north.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah.
I will get a list of all the airplanes of fields in the world, and then lay in a grid of all the possible flights. I don't know.
it's really great to sort of at long last see how they managed to make the round map, though.
Yep. That's exactly how they're morphing it. Yeah. All that data is squashed into the poles and it warps it completely out of it. It makes no sense, right? They've warped it.
I hope everybody in the chat room can now see how they lied about that now.
Yeah, because I can zoom in like on,
Carry on.
you know, you can tell that this is you can tell that this is the actual data right straight off of the, you know, you can zoom in right down until you see these are the mountain ranges and everything that's in there, right? Yeah, so we're trying to see. I want to, you know, once you understand what they're doing and how they're manipulating the reality, then, you know, we stand a whole lot better chance of coming up with a map, at least something that's, you know, but it's still hard, like Siri says, right? The only data that we really have to work with is from Google Earth and so forth, and they've already, you know, potentially manipulated it to fit the globe, right? So who knows it, you know.
They can't fit the globe on the photograph,
right?
And that's the point here.
Yeah,
that's how they actually show the truth right in our face as well.
Yeah,
it's just finish the map for what it is. They just hide 2/3 of it.
Yeah,
and we think it's only 5 degrees from the 180, but it's 2/3 of the y-axis.
Yeah, seeing that
the
the map that they're warping into a globe could only, it might just be a piece of a much larger, you know, piece of pie or whatever, right? It could be, you know, there could be stuff out there I've never had access to, right? Ever, in any sense of the world. It was too far away or whatever, but it's very difficult to see, you know. Who knows?
Yeah, if I would go anywhere south or north, rather north than south, in a sense of ascending instead of descending to the demons, I'd rather meet the angels. I would actually choose an airship.
Yeah, so here's what I was, while we're waiting for Dave to come back there, I'll open a new file, save this here, and I'll open a new file.
Calling him, the phone call doesn't go through on Messenger. You know, when it doesn't connect, it makes that sort of dunk, dunk, dunk noise. That's all it's doing, so his internet's not on.
It was a sudden fall over.
Screen share, application, back to here.
Power loss?
Yeah, so this morning what I did, I was talking to a friend of mine from your area there, and he's interested in assisting with a little exploration project.
Ooh.
Right. So what I did is I designed, I'm designing a platform. I'm designing a platform that you can put a drone on, right? So with a 360-degree camera on the bottom.
Ah.
Right. So it'll be a drone with a 360-degree camera with hydrogen balloons, 4 hydrogen balloons stabilized. Right.
Wow.
And then on the top, it'll hold a canister. And then if I go to this object here.
What does the canister?
Go. Then I'll let it render here a bit. But it's got a little surprise package in the top.
Okay. Whoa.
So the basic concept is to take take a hydrogen balloon system, right, big enough to carry a small drone, 10, 20 pounds or whatever, which wouldn't be very much. That wouldn't be hard to do at all, right? 4 times the displacement, and take a drone up there, and then put a, relatively good size, big diesel motor rocket in it. So once you get to 110,000 feet, launch the rocket and go another 110,000 feet, right? So it would technically be quite easy, I think, to break the world record in altitude for a rocket, right? And put a GoPro on the rocket, right? So I'm thinking if you're already at 110,000 feet and you got no real atmospheric interference there, nothing to slow you down, then that little rocket would go, potentially, what's that, 400,000 or 500,000 feet, no problem.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's nicely saying.
So I'm onto that too, right? Yeah.
You and Siri's like just that you plug in, don't you? You just plug into the computer and plug on.
Yeah.
It's just an expression of ideas that we can make it 3D visible for another, yeah. But actually having the ideas, that's way more exciting.
Well, this is it, right? And if this little proof of concept works, I mean, I see all kinds of applications for it. Not just investigating the flat Earth and being the highest altitude private rocket in history, right? I mean, that's kind of a history type of thing, right, in and of itself, right? If we pull it off, we'd be breaking some world records, and but I also see it as a platform for film industry, high altitude surveying, nice stabilized platform. It extends the life of batteries for the drone, right? Because once it's up there, right, the drone could just be turned on periodically if it's low enough, right, to maneuver.
What is it?
Right?
360-degree cameras on the rocket, the same, to actually have a full coverage.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Kind of still moving for where you want to see it.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you put a 360 camera in the nose of the rocket, since the rocket now doesn't have to go from the ground through all that atmosphere at such a high speed, then you can carry a rocket high enough without burning it up, right? There's no friction on the nose anymore because there's no atmosphere, right? So you can put a nice 360-degree rocket camera on the nose and just launch it and watch it go, right? And then once it gets to, say, once the decelerator bigger, get the biggest solid fuel rocket you can get, right? Once it burns off, it pops the nose cone off, and then the nose cone falls back with the parachute, right? It just pops it off. Then you have a GPS to go find it, right? But the platform with the balloons and everything is completely reusable, right? You make them out of a good strong mylar and put some valves in there so that as the pressure increases, they just gradually leak off and then you can control. After the rocket launches, you have a trigger, right, and it'll just release say 30% of the hydrogen, right, and the balloons will collapse a bit. And then the drone will come back down until it reaches radio range again at whatever it is, 5 miles high or something. Right? They have a limit to radio, right? And then you can fly it home. So you never lose your drone or your balloons and stuff. You're just sacrificing, $10 worth of rocket stuff, right? Every time, right? Yeah. So hopefully to be a five-stage reusable platform that we can do some research with. And keep digging for the truth, right?
Yes. Like finding out from what that whole realm is existing about. I don't know.
Who needs NASA, right? Yeah.
Take a sample of the actual environment there.
Yeah, exactly, right. We could put, I was thinking on putting some sound, like a pinger on it, like a ping sound, so we can do sound resonance imaging, right? You just do a ping and then wait for the echo to come back, time the echo. It'll tell you what the density of the area is, temperature reading, put a thermocouple on there with a couple of the diodes sticking out of it so we can measure the temperature as it rises and in the rocket, right? And all that stuff, infrared camera, right? You can check it for heat, right? And you can do all that imaging, and then we can add that all to the model, right? Just layers upon layers of data. Right? in that sense.
Well, we've got a question from the chat there from Flat Enough asking, do you think any ionocrafts function there? I take it he's trying to coin a new term.
Ionocrafts?
Yeah, ionocrafts. So I imagine he's talking like something for these things that float around in the ionosphere.
Yeah, ion engines.
Oh, like a
Possibly
plasma
ion
jet.
engines, yeah, possibly. But
Like an ion plasma jet engine, yeah, or something to that effect, yeah. Well, it'd be hard to say, right? It's I've looked into the plasma jet thing a little bit, but if everything's in a magnetic field, so if you can tune into the magnetic field, right, and you got the right equipment, in theory, I mean, you should be able to fly around up there using electricity. But the problem is the power, right? You have to get the energy for the craft from somewhere, right? And it has to be enough energy, right, to maintain altitude and maintain trajectory, and right. And the faster you try to go, the more energy you need. So E is always equal to mass times the velocity squared, right? And that's the problem with rockets, right? The bigger the rocket, the more the fuel. It's just there's a point in the equation when you just can't beat it, right?
In a sense, we know these particular little experiments in where you can actually, with high voltage, fly aluminium paper.
Yeah, well, exactly, right. So I mean, that technology isn't very difficult, right? Right. You just have to have enough charge. Right? So, but eventually the charge will dissipate. So you have to keep adding charge to the system. So
that's the point here.
Right.
Where do you get the energy from first?
Yes, so I've just got an answer here. Works by ionizing air and creating a steam between electrodes, then propels self against said stream. Sorry. If that makes any sense to you guys.
Yeah, that'd be like a plasma jet ion. Yeah. So you take the two electrodes, and then you ionize the gas, and the gas comes out the jet at 20 some thousand feet per second, whatever the rate is. It's a really high rate of jet, right? And the gas is technically hotter than what the sun is supposed to be. So it burns really, really hot, right? And it has a high velocity. But a jet,
Sirius just gone to
I think in the complete vacuum of space, if you're near a vacuum, then there's nothing to push off whatsoever, right? I mean, eventually, you're pushing off of. You still need a force or something to push against, right? So in this little rocket here, I was thinking on putting just a small gyro, or a couple of them, like a couple of opposing, maybe 4 of them, in the fins, right? 4 little tiny gyros just to give it some stabilized on the bottom end of it. Right, and give it an axial plane of self-referencing gravity, so to speak, right? An axial plane of force, so that it can push off of its own torque, right? And that would help stabilize it too, because once you're up there, fins are useless, right? Because there's no air or matter for which the fins can actually use to control its trajectory, right? The nose cone is, pointing a nose cone into a vacuum is useless, because there's nothing there to, for the angular velocities to keep it pointed straight, right? Once you're in vacuum, there's nothing left but torque and spin, right? It's because you lose your center of mass, right? You have to maintain some kind of center of gravitational mass if you want to use gravity, but a center of force, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think most people have seen the explanation of people in a vacuum, and there's no up, no down, no left, no right. I mean, so you've got no basis of comparison for a direction. So basically, you're motionless.
Right.
And it's like, how do you get yourself moving from being motionless without any reference? And I mean, in a vacuum, obviously, you really are stuck.
Yeah. So basically, even the gas, like a gas coming out the end of the rocket, you're right. It's as soon as it leaves the nozzle, then all the particles become self-referencing to each individual particle, right? In all directions, right? So as soon as the gas comes out the end of a jet nozzle into a vacuum, it just dissipates into free space instantly in all directions equally, right? So it just goes poof, right? It doesn't do anything, and at best, it would start to maybe have a little bit of force on the nozzle itself. And if it wasn't quite perfectly balanced, right, nothing is perfectly balanced, it would be biased in one direction. So the rocket's just going to spin around in circles, right, wherever it decided to just be random, right, because you got nothing to control the force, right. So you're absolutely right. Yeah. Did you do a video on that, D?
No, unfortunately, I'm not quite technical enough to do videos on the subject. I mean, I can understand it on a basic level, but I'll leave the technical stuff like that to you guys, really.
Well, it's like it's pretty. The way I try to explain that to people is you've got a circular, like a spherical vacuum vessel, like we've seen, everywhere in every gas plant, right? And you draw a vacuum on it, and then you take a very small ping pong ball worth of pressurized gas in the center, place it in the center, and then pop the ball, right? All of the force, even if you put it into a cone shape, right? All of the force is going to go, right? It's just going to go pop, right? Because there's so much vacuum pressure to overcome the force of the gas, right? There's no way to overcome it. Right?
That's the whole point there.
Right, and the same.
Fear of the earth is enough to overcome it.
That's exactly right.
I've got to say, there is some debate going on in chat that there is even a vacuum in space. So, like I say, I mean, yeah, I've got to agree. Like, space is definitely not a vacuum, as they've told us. Otherwise,
that's
even their own physics wouldn't work. So
that's precisely it. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as space goes, vacuum can't exist.
And I'm with you on that one 100%. Like, I was watching a documentary there last night, and this fella's a PhD physicist, right? I mean, I watch that type of stuff all the time, right? Because I'm constantly looking for the latest technologies, right? And what they've done, and what he says in his lecture is precisely right. This picture here is it's described it up top here. It's just a water cell, so it's a little petri dish, more or less, of water, right? And they're running a cymoscope, right, or an oscilloscope, but it's a cymoscope. It vibrates with sound, right? And the wavelengths he's given here is 27 hertz at 12.3 meters, right? That's the length of the wave. And you start to see the toroid that we're modeling, right? This is what I've ended up with in my 3D model, trying to re-emulate the GPS coordinates and everything, right? And we end up with the same thing. In this experiment, he's doing it with sound, right? And this is the fourth dimensional manifestation of energy creating matter through interference, right? Wherever the sound interferes with itself, this is water, right? It becomes a holographic image. So he was describing how water itself is holographic.
So you need to see it as well, be on the map in the square sense that you are always the holographic center of the whole construct. And as soon as you move, you actually take the construct with you, and you still are the center of it. And in that sense, you perceive everything as being real in that sense, but everything bends around your particular experience, and everybody's experience in that sense is a unique one in every position.
It's unique, yeah. It seems to be unique, yeah. And and the it's not contradictory, but the requirement for that type of 4D dimension reality to exist, like he's proven here with the sound resonance, you have to have a perimeter boundary layer, right? It has to have an envelope of some type. So what we end up seeing it, we observe it as a sphere, like the sphere out around we're in here in the bubble, in the toroid, right? We're in this toroid fourth dimensional reality, but it has to have some kind of a spherical or a container of equal volume to it within 4-dimensional space, right? Because if you don't have the perimeter, well, you can't, the vibrating frequencies, the sphere has nothing to bounce off of and reflect to itself to back to the center reference point, right? It can't be a vacuum in free space, infinite universes expanding forever and ever into infinity after the Big Bang that happened at the center, right? Because there's no way for the back force wave to back to itself to reference, right? If it was infinitely nothing in infinite directions, there'd still be infinitely nothing, right? There's no way it could form a solid of any shape or form, right? So wherever the energy is manifesting in the little voids, right? That's where all the energy really is, and in these parts, right, is where the matter interferes with itself. It manifests in these areas, right?
Yeah, so I just got another question from the same guy, Flat Enough. He's saying, what about a standing wave as a boundary? Would that do?
That's exactly what it is. You'd have to have some sort of, like if you had a standing wave, you could create the bubble, and then inside of the bubble, if you had the right frequencies, right, create the sonic wave. Like you could create this bubble if you could do it properly, right? Inside the wave.
So is this kind of like the impossible drive? Is that the kind of the theory behind that? Maybe is that?
It's it's sort of the theory behind the hyperdrive that NASA tried to develop and stuff there. Yeah. If you vibrate it right, then it would become self-referencing, and then it's pretty easy to accelerate it because you could just, but you still have to add energy from the outside of the envelope. Right? Once you get it self-referencing, it's impervious to all action. Right? It just floats in space or time or whatever. 4th-dimensional plasma physics. This is the plasma jet that I think the question was about. Basically, it's the ionized gas, right? And the gas comes out of the plasma jet at astronomical speeds, right? Of course, for my little project with the balloons, obviously I don't have the money to put a plasma jet, right? But in theory, it would work.
Yeah.
Right. And basically, that's it, right? If you're trying to accelerate, like if you're in water, right, and you're trying to accelerate in water as a swimmer, well, you need to put enough force to overcome the mass of the water, right? Then if you're in the air, then your jet propulsion system has to have an equal, like the atoms inside coming out of the jet nozzle will have to be of at least equivalent size to the air molecules in the air itself, because they have to collide in order to provide thrust, right? If you have matter coming out of the end of a nozzle, and the matter itself is smaller than the air particles, well, then the majority of those particles are going to slip between the air molecules and hit absolutely nothing and provide no force, right? They're just going to slip between, right? So it's kind of relative, right? So if you're in a plasma, so a plasma should accelerate you inside a plasma field, right? Equal opposites, right? Equal, right? They need to be the same size, right? Right? If you get a barn full of holes and you're firing BBs at it, well, you're going to hit absolutely nothing but holes, right? So if you want to bounce a ball off a barn that has a barn wall full of holes, then your balls have to be bigger than the holes, right, in order to bounce back, right? Simple analogy, but that's how it would work. Yeah. Any other questions coming out of the chat there, D, or anything? Or
so explain it to people in the chat room. Does that make it? No. Anyway.
He's not. Not sure how many pieces and what unique. Maybe he means technique, but knowledge inside. I don't know. I mean, that's from the same guy. But yeah, no, I mean, he does appreciate you guys addressing the questions as well. So I just should say that.
Yep.
But yeah, no, as of yet, no new questions.
Thanks, D.
Sorry, yeah, he just put, yeah, what's the budget for the gadget? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, the budget for the gadget.
Nothing.
Is well, we're trying to do it for, I'm trying to do enough funds to do it for less than $10,000 because but it's reusable, right? So the budget for each launch would be, once you got the main platform built, the budget for each launch wouldn't be any more than the cost of the rocket, right? The rocket body, because you're going to lose the tube and you lose the rocket motor, and you'll be recovering the nose and the camera and the parachutes. So the cost of an aluminum tube, right, and a relatively, the biggest D or whatever they are, a triple D cell solid rocket, right, motor is, you know, a couple $100, right? So once you build the first one for less than 10 grand, you can launch them for $200 a trip, right? Plus the gas cost for nitrogen, which is, you can rent a Cascade system for, you know, whatever it is, $1,000 a year, right? Right. So cheap, it'd be a cheap.
Yeah, practically nothing. Yeah.
Practically nothing. Yeah, you do for like $500 a launch. Yeah, to get you to near space for less than.
Don't worry, Elon Musk just saw our diagram. He's already working on it.
Yeah, he's gonna, you know, he'd be all over that. Yeah, $500 a launch. Yeah, guaranteed. Yeah, yeah, you could do it even cheaper if we had the materials and you could actually go higher with your balloon. If I have a picture of it up here, I might have it on my desktop. I can add to this and find it. Bear with me a moment here, folks. Okay, if I add it into my thing here, it should pop up on the screen, hopefully. Does that pop up?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the irony of it, right? This is what blows my mind, right? Here I am in 2017 trying to solve a problem to get, you know, something cheap and reusable that people can use to, you know, research as high as we can see, right? And the design I come up with, I thought, I was researching, when I went to research the what's the volume displacement for gases, right? For lifting gases, which ones are the best, right? It turns out that in 1667, a monk designed this vacuum airship. So each of the balls is a vacuum. And if you could actually achieve perfect vacuum in a relatively lightweight sphere, then vacuum would be the best lifting agent. There's actually no gas in the balloons themselves. It's vacuum, because vacuum will try to become equal to the vacuum itself, right? It'll take you the highest. So there's actually no gas involved, right? So now you're just down to the cost of the you know, $200 rocket motor. The rest of it just goes up and down by itself. You just keep sucking the air out of it to get a vacuum and let it go. Right, $200 a pop.
Yeah.
But this was invented in 1667 by a monk, right? So I was like, "Hey, right on, go monks, right?" Yeah, it's funny.
Oh, I've realised that we've lost Rory as well.
Yeah.
I didn't see. Mm.
Yeah. So using, so you know, if you're trying to float in a medium, right? I mean, people need to stop for a second and think about it, right? If you're trying to float in a medium, if you fill a ball full of water and throw it into water, right, it's equal to the water, right? If you put so much as, you know, 5% air inside the bubble, or inside that ball, right? Well, now it by default, it has to be more buoyant than the water it's in. It'll float to the top regardless, right? That's how you know, the bobber on the end of your fishing line works, right? Right, the little bobber will hold up the hook and the lead weight, right? Bigger the bobber, the bigger the hook, right? It's pretty simple, right? Yeah, and so, you know, all this big show about NASA with giant rockets and all this stuff is when I start to think about it, is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Right?
Chris,
Yep.
in the chat room, I was asking, are there any links for this stuff that you're showing now?
Well, no, because I'm designing it live in front of you. So these are my personal designs on my personal computer.
No, I meant this one here with the Chinese.
Oh, well, just Google vacuum airship and you'll find it. Wikipedia, right? Vacuum airship. That's the link.
How could they call it that hundreds of years ago? They wouldn't have known what a vacuum was, would they?
Oh yeah, yeah,
They did.
yeah. Vacuum airship, and this picture was actually when I went to look at lifting gases in Wikipedia. I was googling for lifting gas properties or whatever, and to research my design to make sure I had it right. So, because if I use nitrogen, it's only 7% lighter than air, which won't get you very high. But if you go to helium, it's like 17 or 18% lighter than air, whatever the numbers are. Right? Helium's lighter than nitrogen, and so forth. Right. So ultimately, vacuum is the lightest. Right. So. Right, because it's negative buoyancy. Right. That's what you're looking for.
It's just amazing to think that they were sort of, well, actually, all the past's amazing, because it's completely different to what we've been taught. But do you reckon they did use that then?
I'm sure you might have tried it. I mean, why would you take the time to draw it, right, and stuff and design it if you didn't give it a shot? I mean, I don't know if they've ever tried it, but back in those days, I don't know if they would have had the materials, lighten up materials with vacuum. The problem is with vacuum, right? If you're sucking on all the air out of it, then the negative pressure on the spheres is huge, right? It's because it's relative to the atmospheric pressure, and as it rises, then that pressure would become less and less and less. So the stress on the balls, the spheres that have the vacuum in it, the stress would become reduced as it rises. So once it's up there, it'll be happy. It'll be happy up there for as long as it'll float, right? On the ground, it's under pressure, but up there it's not. It would become equalized, right? Yeah. So I don't know if in 1667 if they would have had carbon fiber composite films that can take vacuum pressure, but nowadays, if you had a carbon fiber composite type of film, right, just like a mylar film on the outside made of carbon, which is as strong as steel or stronger, right? This carbon silk, and then put mylar on the inside of that to help with some of the heat, because when the radiation, when you get up there, it's going to want to heat a little bit. But see, now vacuum, it's almost heat resistant, so there's nothing in there to heat, so you don't got to worry about that too much, right? So it should equalize out pretty good, right? So nowadays, I think we could design something that would be light enough to use vacuum, right?
So series
And
need
it's
one
safe.
of those, or D. Right. If you're going up north, you need one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when the rocket, comes out, if you envision that mass there that I'm showing, this picture here again, because I did save a couple of them here. Yeah. So when the rocket comes out of the canister, right, and launches out of the top, then if these are vacuum and the heat from the rocket, right, it wouldn't necessarily blow one of these things up, right? But if these are filled with hydrogen, see, this would be the risk, right, with this system. If hydrogen's highly flammable, right? Nitrogen's inert, right? But so nitrogen would be safer, but it won't take you as high. And hydrogen, if you hit it, you'll blow up one of your balloons, right? So these need to be, relatively fire resistant, right? A good 6 mil, mylar, aluminum mylar balloon would do it, right? Right. Couple layers, one layer for safety. Right?
They really sort of wanted to take us completely off the path, though, didn't they? With everything that, it's just so bad. The light.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, it's there's more profit, right? There's just more profit, right, in building giant rockets and having giant rocket motors and giant contracts with jet propulsion companies, and it's just to serve the economy, right? They employ hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people. They get paid hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a year each. Some of them, right? Some of those engineers are pushing 6 figures, right, to sit there and design plans that don't work, right, perpetually, right? when you can put a rocket in space, like I said here, it's right there, $200, right? In my opinion. I mean, I don't see why. Does anybody on the panel or in the chat, anyone here see anything wrong with that logic that would prevent that rocket from going as high as the motor will take it? Right?
It might take a little while for the chat to catch up with that, but no, I certainly don't see too much logic behind that, I don't think. But I've only got half an ear, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, if your launch altitude, you start at 110,000 feet, well, then there's nothing between you and space but partial vacuum, in theory, right? If it is vacuum, we'll find out. Right? Otherwise, you're going to hit the dome, or whatever it is, right? You're going to hit the liquid superfluid, right? You'll find out.
What it is.
Or you'll end up with the, with the camera up there floating around doing nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We'll put a Wi-Fi on it, right? Not a Wi-Fi, but put a, something in there that even a ham radio signal or something that we know can, at least that's where, who's the fellow that was doing the heartbeat of the earth there? What's his name? Alan or whatever?
Yes, the doc. Yeah.
The doc, yeah. So, if Doc is good with radios, right, then if he can bounce a radio signal off of whatever's up there and he's hearing it bouncing back, then you put that in the nose cone of this, right, and then you, at least if you lose your rocket nose cone and it's up there floating around and it doesn't come back down because it's now weightless, right, then at least you can dial into it, right, with a radio signal and download the imagery and see what it's seeing, right.
Automatically dials back.
Well, exactly. A little ping, right? It'll just put a little ping device in there, and it just every 10 seconds it sends a picture every 10 seconds, right? Regardless, right?
Yeah.
Just a snapshot and a constant feed, right? Get it on the right frequency, and then you should be able to pick up the data. Yeah. Obviously, regular cell phones won't work, right? But
UTP instead of TCP.
yeah. Did anybody watch? I was trying to look at Rob Skiba's results there. I didn't get a chance to go see what happened. I started watching it, but I didn't get into it. It's a 3-hour video. I didn't get to get it finished. But I was wondering if they lost signal once they get up high enough. But I know cell phones will lose signal on an airplane, so above 50 or above 5,000 feet or whatever it is, there's very limited signal.
Too far away from the. Yeah, they're also horizontally angled, not upwards.
Yeah.
Could I just say, as a party pooper, we have been live now for 3 hours, and I don't think Dave's coming back.
Nope, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad I was able to pop in there just about the time he got kicked out, and just to kind of carry on. So it's good. Yeah.
Do you think that you said quite a lot today, Chris, for people to take in again?
Oh, I think so. And I hope people are getting excited that we're on the case and we're looking for the answers. And yeah.
I just wonder, usually you give a bit of timing, like talk for another 10-15 minutes, but then we'll end the hangout then, because we have been on already for 3 hours. And I'm sorry that the schedule changed today with Santos being ill and then Dave going, and we didn't say goodbye to him, did we? But that's the way it goes sometimes. But I really enjoyed Dave being on, and I really enjoyed, Chris, you showing us how they made the round map.
Yeah, I hope that came through the feed pretty good. I tried to do a model that wouldn't take a lot of rendering time, so yeah, that's how it works. So hopefully people enjoyed that. I actually have to run here in about, well, now I guess, but
you've got to go as well.
Yeah, I got to jump out here. I gotta be somewhere here real quick here. So if I just wanted to say thanks. I'm glad I was able to jump in, and thanks for having me on again. And And thanks to the folks in the audience, and hopefully they enjoyed the little demo here again, as usual. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot, Chris.
You'll be back soon, Chris.
Alrighty, you guys take care.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Well,
Thank you,
like I
Chris.
said,
Bye.
should we wind down then? Should we just go through and summing up of the night? We haven't heard very much from you today, Billy, but do you want to sum up tonight at all?
Well, sure.
Do the summing up.
I'd like to thank allegedly Dave for coming on and
Yeah.
giving us perspective as always, and we always hit some technical snafus at times, but it was still good to hear from him. I hope Santos is feeling better. I mean, Santos came down with a toothache apparently, and we always like Santos's company too, and looking forward to maybe rescheduling a time where Dave and Santos can chat. Apparently, they had a chance to meet and hung out for a couple days exchanging ideas. After a conference, they were staying in the same hotel. Dave was mentioning earlier on that him and Santos know each other, and they were both looking forward to talking with each other tonight, but some circumstances come up. What can you do? Overall, it's a good night. Our motto, we were showing how the A&E map, how it possibly got distorted, and with the data that you can see how it morphs from a square map into the circular map and the flight patterns, and this is how they do it. And this is how they portray it as a globe. When all realistically, it's a square map, a rectangular grid system that's used for all flight patterns, all GPS coordinates.
Did you enjoy that, Billy? Did you enjoy how he showed you how it was morphed? I enjoyed it.
Oh, yes. I really like Chris's 3D animation programs that he gives us, and he's working on them, and he's got the animation program down pretty good, so he does a good job with that.
You slate the square flat earthers, don't they, a bit? And that was just great. And apart from series' work, which I've been watching for months and months grow and evolve, it was just great to see that bit on how they made the pizza map.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I should just say round map. I don't mean to be horrible because loads of people like that map, but it's been debunked already, and Chris just showed you how they made it.
Right. A lot of people are having, they still are believing in the circling sun and the moon, which is okay. Even in the Arctic, if they would just pan the camera left to right, you would still get the change of day from when the sun sets and you go back east, you see the sun rising. So they have the camera doing a 360, and that's all they're really seeing is they're seeing the sun set and then rise again in the east. So if they pan the camera east to west, then west to east, instead of doing a 360, you would observe the same thing. I was in a discussion earlier with someone trying to describe that, the midnight sun. And there's some contention. We do believe there's a midnight sun in the Arctic, and we also believe there's a midnight sun in the Antarctic as well. And there's a big dispute on this. But the things are coming together, and it's just a difference of opinion, and we want people to look at the information that we're providing and come to your own conclusions. That's all. And Dave Marsh. We also had Dave on tonight.
Yeah, we did.
He's also doing more research. He's plugging in a year's worth of data on the moon movements, okay, from the Tropic of Cancer to the equator to the Tropic of Capricorn. And he's going to give us a charting of what he's coming up with. And he's absolutely debunked the heliocentric model. and he's showing. Dave is very kind too. That he doesn't really want to step on any toes as far as the A&E app people are concerned. But however, the difference between the topic of Cancer to the topic of Capricorn is a 70% difference in the circumference, and we're not noticing the change of the moon in any respect compensating from moving from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay, we're not seeing the change in speed. And he has all the time data that he's putting together, and Dave does a good job. I would say he's one of our expert people as far as tracking the moon and in our sun and moon group. So Dave's done an excellent job. He has a moon race video that we've posted the link in the chat. And Dave Marsh has an excellent channel as well if you want to research more into this. So things are coming together. People are coming together in our group. There are a few people, some bigger channels that are starting to see. That's why I was hoping Dave would stay on a little bit more. Dave was asking the question. He was also talking about the difference between sunlight and ambient light, how the argon, neon, and some of the gases, how they're lit up electromagnetically. They give us our ambient light. And then he was questioning, right before he had internet problems, he was questioning, could there possibly be another sun if there's more continents beyond Antarctica? And then Ceres took over, how we believe that the heavens are hyperdimensional, that the sun is an infinite grid system in a finite three-dimensional construct of the universe that we live in. So there's more land north and south, we believe, and our mapping in the GPS Google map is showing this, that they squished it all down. Chris also demonstrated how they took all the land up north, and when he morphs it out and he puts it on the outside of the Antarctic ring on the A&E map, and this is where they get the Kobayashi Maru map, the 1,000-year-old Japanese map, and where there's Sol, a couple more suns, a couple more moons. So there's a lot of different models out there, and that we're taking a look at, and a lot of us in our group have taken a look at it. And this is what we're primarily focusing on, the elevational data that Ceres has put together with a bunch of sun and moon readings from group members, and using the Google Map systems has came up with a really nice 3D projection elevation map, and where he's taken the flower of life pattern and mapped out the heavens up into the seventh dimension. And he's done a really good job at that. So that's where our group's coming from. We believe that the heavens are hyperdimensional, meaning more than 3 dimensions. How can the sun be here, there, and everywhere? It's because it's not a 3-dimensional sun. And this is how this is possible. And this is how our Earth is lit up by the sun, where everyone has their localized sun, shadows, crepuscular rays. Prove this, that everyone has their own localized sun wherever they are. It's hard to believe, but that's it. And that's what you're seeing. You can believe your eyes, and that it's just not one 3-dimensional sun that's thousands of miles south. Well, if you live up north, it'd be thousands of miles south on the Tropic of Cancer right now, descending towards the equator, and it's going to make, coming up to the fall equinox in September, where it'll be on the equator, and then it moves southerly to the Tropic of Capricorn for the winter solstice. So and then we have the change of seasons and the change of wave pattern. And this is what we're coming up with. Some of the information that Free Energy also comes up with. Other people like Dave Nesbitt, Mike Helmick, and Series in our group, of course, are starting to Mr. Thrive and Survive. People are taking a really good look at it, and there's a couple group members I'm not going to mention. It was discussed privately, and when we want to come out with that, there's a pretty reputable flat earther that has a pretty good sized channel, and he's also questioning on whether the sun and moon are circling. So I think this information's getting out. We have a lot of people returning to our chats every night, and we appreciate that. And we're just going to keep working on it till we get it all polished up. But things are coming together. It takes time to compile all this information. It took us a while to get all the right people in the right places to analyze this and participate and to bounce ideas off one another. So it's just not a one-man show over here at Sun and Moon. It's a group collective, and our group puts it together as one. So, which is nice.
Aww.
So I think
very nicely said.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Billy. Someone in the chat room said you're the dad. You're the dad of this, Billy.
That's pretty good. That's pretty funny. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. And it's great you're there, Billy.
Thank you.
Dee, do you want to add anything? I know you're quite busy in the chat room, but you have participated a bit more today.
Yeah. So I'm just going to link Billy's channel because somebody's just asked for it. So just 1 second there. Yeah, no, it's been a good night. Like I say, we've gone through the legalese kind of stuff. We've gone through Series' model a bit more. Chris has jumped in and shown us a bit more of what he's been doing. And like I say, that showing us how they manipulate that into the globe, and that was awesome to see.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It might sound a bit mean, but so was I. Someone's showing you how they did it, how they made that one. Thank you, Dee.
No, that's
Series? Cool. Yeah. Series?
Yeah, I've kind of not much to add to that. It was a great night again, as every night it seems, and we keep growing. See more and more people every week. And I hope more to meet more people like Chris, in that sense of that we actually get a more active team in the technical realm.
Thank you, Series. And it's probably a bit of a relief, isn't it? As well, to actually know there are other people into this project as well now. Not just you.
It's kind of you're capable of actually speaking the language within that particular specialty. And then you're understanding each other on that in that particular knowledge base in that sense.
Yeah, and I'm pleased to say that, you know, in our group, we don't argue. And even if not everybody has come on the live hangouts, in our group, we've had many hangouts with many members of our group. And, you know, that is, Series wanted that. I mean, I know we can't have a hangout with every single member on the chat room, but it was about getting to know people, getting to trust people, to finding people who saw what Series was talking about. And slowly, Series, they are.
Yeah. I guess it's all about the intent, huh?
Yeah. Thank you for that, Series. Patricia, Judith, do you want to say anything? Patricia, oh, there's Patricia. Yeah.
Hiya, yeah. I just want to say it's been a really good night again. Every hangout that you've done or that I've been on are really, really good. I just love the fact that everyone gets talking and, you know, like you said, we don't argue. We've got different opinions and things like that, but it's about getting together and getting to know one another, and the research as well, which is very important, because unless you research, you're just going to chat forever and ever and ever unless you actually do something about it, which is brilliant. I just love this group, by the way.
Oh, we love you too, Patricia.
Thank you.
It wouldn't be the same without you, Patricia.
I bet it would.
I know Patricia seems a bit quiet on here, but that's sometimes because she goes to say something and she can't get her word in edgeways. But Patricia does her fair share in our group, don't you, Patricia? Even if some of it's behind the scenes and the chat room don't see it. So thank you very much.
Oh, you don't have to thank me. It's my pleasure. I like being helpful.
Cool. And we like it too.
Good.
Is Judith there? Judith. Because Judith's in Israel. It's 2:30 in the morning there. Judith, are you there? Not sure if she's there, but Judith also does her fair share because she goes out like Dave Marsh and other people like Robert Forchek yesterday. There's David James in our group. These people are constantly taking photographs, morning, noon, dusk, recording. So Judith does her fair share. Anyway, I think that's going to be the end of this hangout, really. I'm sorry that it changed because originally it was Santos and Dave. As explained, Santos has an infection in his tooth, and we were having a great time with Dave, and then we lost Dave. But what that means is we will have to arrange another night with Santos and Dave. So I'll arrange that for a few weeks' time. So I hope everybody's enjoyed. And guys on the panel who are left, you know what we have to do. There, yeah, you have to put your camera on and have a group hug. On series. Come on, D. There we are. Judith's not. Oh, I've got to do me. Yeah, I should be on. Can you see me?
Not yet.
My camera's on.
Takes a few seconds.
Oh, well, there's a hitch. Wait. I'll do a hug. You can't see me, but I'm hugging. Hugs, everybody. Hugs to the chat room. Hugs, hugs to Flat Earth.
Love you all.
See you very soon. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, and all the wrenches. Thank you.